Chapter 419. Haha. Geronimo laughed wildly. I want to see how Brother Chu will make me break first. Then he suddenly shouted, break him for me. Chu Feiling and Chu Yang roared at the same time. They held their long sabers in front of their chests, and suddenly moved. It seemed as if Chu Yang and Chu Feiling were in the middle of a mountain of sabers. The saber light flashed, and a solid mountain of sabers chopped down from the front. The saber light flashed again, and another mountain of sabers fell down with a loud bang. The saber light flashed again and again. This mountain of sabers attacked from multiple directions at the same time. The power of this attack was more than twice as powerful as the previous one. The saber light crisscrossed like a waterfall in a crisscross pattern. Chu Feiling looked up to the sky and roared. He looked at Chu Yang with a profound look in his eyes. His tall and straight body remained motionless. This mountain of sabers was approaching him at the same time. Chu Feiling suddenly patted his waist with his hand. A clanging sound was heard, and a bluish-green saber light shot out from his waist. The peak-grade saber emperor had finally taken out his trump card for the first time. Chu Feiling had felt the undercurrent surging ever since he had gone missing 18 years ago. So, he had deliberately concealed his strength since then. But he had finally burst out with his full strength today. The bluish-green saber light descended from the sky like a swimming dragon. It seemed as if it had opened up a passage in this area of shining saber light. A series of 3 stuffy groans were heard, and a blood-red light appeared with a whizzing sound. Chu Feiling's figure flashed, and arrived beside Chu Yang like a wisp of smoke. Then he grabbed Chu Yang's waist with his left hand without any hesitation. Chu Yang felt as if he was flying on the clouds the next moment. Chu Feiling's body flew up after him. The bluish-green saber light broke through the dense saber curtain in the sky, and soared 300 feet into the sky. Then, Chu Feiling's figure fiercely rotated, and kicked the soles of Chu Yang's feet. Chu Yang felt as if 10,000 giants had suddenly pushed him under his feet. His body flew forward at the speed of light. A chi-chi sound was heard, and it was followed by a papa sound. Chu Feiling's black robe emitted smoke at a speed visible to the naked eye. His black robe was set ablaze due to the intense friction with the air at such a high speed. Chu Feiling's throw and kick could send Chu Yang several thousand feet away. No wonder Chu Feiling was not in a hurry all this while. He was waiting for an opportunity to give the enemy the greatest shock and the greatest injury. When that time came, he would send Chu Yang out. Then he would be able to hold the enemy back and let Chu Yang escape safely. No matter what happens to me, Chu Yang will not die. Chu Yang flew out, but Chu Feiling's body landed on the ground. A furious voice sounded, "Damn it! I always thought that he was a martial emperor. I never expected him to be a saber emperor. You with the surname Chu, you've really hidden yourself well." Chu Feiling didn't utter a single word. Instead, a bluish-green saber light suddenly flew up and sprinkled down an earth-shattering saber light. Chu Feiling had unexpectedly switched from defense to offense in the face of the besiegement of this saber emperor's ultimate formation. The moment the saber light appeared, it shrouded the enemy like a heavenly curtain. Everyone let out a strange cry at the same time. They felt a great humiliation. They had besieged one person with their individual strength. Moreover, they had used the secluded night ultimate formation to double their individual strength. But 3 of them had been injured in the blink of an eye. Moreover, they had been sent out safely by the person they were supposed to protect. Moreover, they had been forced to gasp for breath by the enemy's offensive. What kind of extraordinary shame and humiliation was this? Don't worry about that little bastard. Let's gather our strength and chop Chu Feiling into minced meat first. Geronimo was so angry that his face behind the mask had turned purple. Chu Feiling's heart relaxed. He laughed and said, "Geronimo, as long as you have the ability, this Chu will accompany you at any time." He knew that the enemy could have suppressed him if they had joined forces. In fact, he might have been buried here today if he hadn't handled things properly. However, he felt that it had been worth it after he had sent Chu Yang out. His bluish-green shadow flickered as he madly attacked. Chu Fei Ling revealed his true cultivation as a saber emperor at this time. It seemed as if he held the saber in his hand. It was glorious and dazzling as it moved horizontally and vertically. Kill him! Yi Ran Mo crazily shouted. Start the third stage of the formation, soul extermination. The man shouted, and the saber light flourished. The blazing white light slowly suppressed Chu Fei Ling's bluish-green saber light. Suddenly, a loud shout was heard from afar. Don't worry. I'll deliver the things you've given me to the upper three heavens. Take care of yourself. I'm sure we'll meet again. It was Chu Yang's voice. Even the sword spirit in Chu Yang's mind couldn't help but give him a thumbs up when Chu Yang shouted this. The secluded night ultimate formation, as its name implied, could only display its greatest power when two people were together. It wouldn't be an ultimate formation if one person was missing. Even a monarch-level expert would have no choice but to return to heaven after the formation of the ultimate formation had been completed. Previously, the sword spirit had also thought about what would happen if he tailor-made a divine saber for Chu Fei Ling. However, he also knew that even if he had an additional divine weapon, it would be of no use in this place of absolute danger. However, Chu Yang's shout had taken drastic measures. Firstly, he was already far away from the battlefield. If they wanted to chase him, they had to break the formation. Secondly, they had no choice but to chase him after he had shouted this 19, September 2nd, 25. Even if they had to force him, they had to force him to come out. Chu Fei Ling wasn't a match for this person if they worked together. However, it wouldn't be difficult for Chu Fei Ling to defeat them one by one. At the very least, it wouldn't be a problem for both sides to suffer or escape. Chu Yang knew that Chu Fei Ling's predicament had been resolved. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. From the conversation between the two parties, he could tell that this big brother Chu was probably from the Chu clan of the upper three heavens. In other words, there was a high possibility that he was his own family. Maybe it's my uncle or my biological father? Anyway, he was such a person. But no matter what, he couldn't let him die here today. Even if he wasn't sure if he was from the Chu clan, even if he hadn't decided whether to acknowledge his ancestors, he had to save him. Otherwise, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Therefore, Chu Yang had made up his mind. No matter what, he had to intervene in this matter. At the very least, he had to help Chu Fei Ling get through this crisis. Chu Yang's voice came from afar. Everyone was startled. The 10 people who were fighting in the melee almost simultaneously moved their sabers. They dodged in a hurry and then froze in place. Then, this little bastard. The 10 people scolded at the same time. Everyone, including Chu Fei Ling, was gnashing their teeth. Yi Ran Mo and the others hadn't expected that Chu Fei Ling would make such a move. So, they all became apprehensive. Even if we can kill Chu Fei Ling, the little bastard will bring the things and the news to the Chu clan of the upper three heavens. Then, it will trigger a strong backlash from the Chu clan. Although the Yi clan was strong and they weren't afraid, and the Chu clan couldn't be compared to the Yi clan at all. However, the Tribulation Sword's master had grown rapidly. The entire upper three heavens was waiting for him. They were trying their best to avoid trouble. It was inevitable that they would be blamed by their clans. After all, dealing with Chu Fei Ling had to be done in secret. It couldn't be done openly. If this matter was exposed, a storm would be inevitable. This person wasn't an important person in the Yi clan. It was possible that the Yi clan would push someone out to take the blame if things got out of hand. Everyone's eyes revealed an ominous glint as they thought of this. Chu Fei Ling was burning with anxiety. You said you'd leave, so you'd leave? What's the point of shouting world-defying heavens? You may think that a few thousand feet is very far. But a few thousand feet is nothing in the eyes of an emperor-level expert. He can catch you in the blink of an eye. However, Chu Fei Ling also knew that Chu Yang had done this for his own good. He wanted to send a few people to chase after Chu Yang. But he wouldn't be in any danger once the formation was broken. He wasn't a match for Chu Yang. But he could still attack and escape. But the idea is good. I won't be in any danger. But Chu Yang will definitely die. A second-grade king-level expert. Even a sword king can't block a blow from a saber emperor, let alone a third-grade saber emperor. This little bastard is using his life to exchange for mine. Chu Feiling thought of this. He was anxious and moved at the same time. Little brother, thank you for your kindness. But you'd better leave quickly. You don't have to get involved in this matter, Chu Feiling shouted. His meaning was very simple. Tell Chu Yang that you should leave quickly. Also, tell Yi Ranmo and the others he's lying. Don't believe him. But what kind of person is Yi Ranmo? Yi Ranmo had stood out in the struggle of Jianghu step by step. And he had relied on his paranoia and ruthlessness. Especially, this matter involved such an important matter at this time. So, he would rather believe it than not. So, how could he believe Chu Feiling's words and give up on chasing Chu Yang? That was absolutely impossible. Old man, the 8 of us will stay here to kill Chu Feiling. You go and bring back that little bastard's head. Yi Ranmo made a prompt decision and ordered. Yes. That old man flew out. Chu Feiling roared, and the saber light suddenly rose sharply. But Yi Ranmo and the others joined forces and stood behind the black-clothed old man to block Chu Feiling's crazy offensive. Go quickly and come back quickly. Yi Ranmo waved his saber like rain as he hurriedly said, kill that little bastard at the fastest speed. Then, come back to the formation and kill Chu Feiling. Yes. The black-clothed old man fiercely jumped up. His saber light danced in the air and transformed into a startling rainbow. He then chased after Chu Yang. Chu Feiling had suddenly erupted a moment ago and had injured 3 people. The black-clothed old man was one of them. Yi Ranmo had deliberately sent him to kill Chu Yang. He wanted him to take advantage of this time to rest. After all, how long could a third-grade saber emperor take to deal with a mere king-level expert? Chapter 420. Yi Ranmo laughed strangely and said, Brother Chu, don't waste your time. Do you think that a mere king-level expert can escape the pursuit of an emperor-level expert? However, Brother Chu, it's been many years since I've seen you so flustered. Don't tell me that little girl is someone very important to you? Chu Feiling shouted angrily, bullshit. However, he also felt a little emotional. How many years has it been? How many years had it been since he had been so furious? The last time he was so furious was when his son went missing. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel a sharp pain in his heart. If he died here today, even if his son was eventually found, he would never be able to see him again. Ha! Brother Chu, I heard that your son has gone missing. Could it be that this little guy? Ha! He looks very similar to you. Brothers, I didn't think that we would be able to kill the eldest brother of the Chu clan today. Yi Ranmo laughed wildly. Ha! The other 7 people laughed at the same time. Nonsense. That little brother has nothing to do with me. Chu Feiling became furious. Yi Ranmo, don't wrongly accuse the innocent. Nothing. Yi Ranmo put on a fake smile as he said, he's innocent. And he's not your son. So why are you so anxious? Chu Feiling snorted angrily. Suddenly, a saber light flashed and a dense green saber light hacked out in a continuous manner. Yi Ranmo raised his saber to parry. The 2 sabers collided with a loud bang, and sparks flew in all directions. Yi Ranmo's body suddenly swayed, and his face exposed a surprised look. He could feel that Chu Feiling's cultivation was much higher than his own. Before he could regain his senses, another saber slashed down. Yi Ranmo once again blocked with his saber. He then retreated a step. However, the 3rd saber strike had already arrived. Chu Feiling's face was ghastly pale after being illuminated by the saber light. He was filled with murderous intent. Murderous intent filled the air. Chu Feiling hated Yi Ranmo to the extreme at this moment. No matter what, he had to cut this person down with his saber. Yi Ranmo repeatedly blocked the blade. His complexion had already turned deathly pale, and he shouted loudly, "Attack together!" Needless to say, the other 7 people didn't stay idle either. They attacked one after another. At this moment, a long howl came from afar. It was Chu Yang's voice. Ha! We've already caught up. Yi Ranimo said with a sinister smile as blood trickled down from the corners of his mouth. Chu Feiling's heart was burning with anxiety. Suddenly, he slashed out thousands of times in a row in an instant. The saber light then gathered into a light curtain. With a strange sound, he and his saber turned into an invincible and bright light beam. He rushed out of the encirclement without any resistance. A black-clothed man screamed. His body spun and flew out of the encirclement. Every time his burly body spun in the air, a circle of blood spilled out. Chu Feiling also paid the price. With a muffled groan, his back was slashed, and blood spurted out. However, Chu Feiling didn't seem to feel anything. He became one with his saber and shouted. Then, he rushed madly toward the place where the long howl had come from. Chase after him. Yi Ranimo fiercely roared. I would rather die than let Chu Yang stay here forever. If we let him go back, sooner or later, he will become a great threat to our Yi clan. He had spoken these words from the bottom of his heart. Chu Feiling was more than 20 years younger than him. Yi Ranimo had always thought that Chu Feiling was at most on par with him. The news from the Chu clan had said that Chu Feiling was only a 5th-grade martial emperor. However, he had realized that the rumors were poles apart from the reality after today's battle. Chu Feiling's strength is obviously much stronger than mine. He's at least a 7th or 8th-grade saber emperor. Chu Feiling has been hiding his strength for so many years. His mind and cultivation are extremely frightening. If such a person is allowed to live and grow. Moreover, I've already formed a deadly enmity with him today. What is he if he isn't a great threat? Yi Ranimo crazily scolded someone in his heart as he thought of this. Chu Feilong, you motherfucker, aren't you cheating me? You were the one who reported the news. You were the one who provided the whereabouts. You were the one who provided the information. You said that your elder brother is only a 5th-grade martial emperor. My fucking 5th-grade martial emperor. I believed it. But I still dispatched 8 3rd-grade saber emperors to be safe. Moreover, I personally led the team. Who would have thought that your elder brother is a terrifying 8th-grade saber emperor? You've cheated me to death. My chest is still in great pain because of your 5th-grade martial emperor elder brother. Motherfucker. My internal organs have been injured by the shock. Motherfucker. Yi Ranimo prayed in his heart, Elder. My dear elder, hurry up and take care of that little bastard. Let's get rid of Chu Feiling together. Otherwise, I'm really going to be in trouble. Chu Yang shouted. Then, he felt that the air behind him was violently vibrating. He turned his head and saw a black-clothed man rushing towards him at an extremely fast speed. Motherfucker! Chu Yang shouted. He turned around and fled in all directions. The black-clothed man looked at Chu Yang, who was running around in a panic. He exposed a cruel smile on his face. Then he accelerated and pounced on Chu Yang. He thought that it would be easy to capture Chu Yang this time. However, when he was only 15 meters away from Chu Yang, who was running away in a sorry state, suddenly turned around. Looking at the black-clothed old man who was chasing after him alone, Chu Yang's eyes revealed a strange smile as if he had succeeded in his scheme. Little bastard. You still want to run away? The black-clothed man burst into loud laughter. He shook his head and was extremely proud of himself. You want to kill me? Chu Yang retreated step by step in a panic. He tripped over a stone and nearly fell down. He hastily jumped up and looked at the black-clothed man with a calm expression. However, his eyes were flickering with a frightened light. So what if I kill you? You little bastard. You injured me. So, I won't kill you. You wish. The black-clothed man calmly landed on the ground. He crossed his hands behind his back. He had the demeanor of an expert. However, he was quickly adjusting his breathing to restore his strength. The fight with Chu Feiling was extremely thrilling. My chest and abdomen were almost cut open. The wound on my abdomen is still bleeding. Since the boss gave me the chance to adjust my breathing, how can I waste it? Moreover, this little guy is really weak. I thought that I would have to spend a lot of effort to catch up with him. I didn't expect that I would catch up so quickly. He's really a rookie. To deal with such a rookie, I can easily capture him with one finger. I shouldn't make a fuss out of nothing. Don't kill me, okay? Chu Yang asked pitifully. I can give you that thing as long as you don't kill me. What is that thing? Quickly take it out. The black-clothed man's heart skipped a beat. The elixir that Chu Fei Ling gave me? That's good stuff. That thing? Chu Yang searched his body on the left and right. He looked anxious. Where is it? Where is it? Where did I put it? Are you playing with me? The black-clothed man stepped forward and shouted angrily. Chu Yang was even more anxious. How would I dare to play with you? Then, take it out. The black-clothed man snorted. Found it. Chu Yang cheered. Here. Chu Yang stretched out his right hand with a fawning look on his face. It seemed that he was holding something in his palm. He looked reluctant to part with it. Give it to me. The black-clothed man stretched out his hand to grab it. Give it to your grandmother. Chu Yang shouted. The black-clothed man was startled by the scolding. He was about to jump up in anger when he saw a flash in Chu Yang's empty palm. A long sword suddenly appeared. It rushed towards the black-clothed man with a biting cold sword energy like an angry dragon. The black-clothed man didn't expect that a king-level expert would dare to attack him, a third-grade emperor-level expert. He was still stretching out his hand with an expectant and complacent look on his face. He was caught off guard by the sword light. The black-clothed man shouted angrily. His upper body leaned back and his feet flew back at the same time. He felt a chill in front of his chest. Then, his chest was fiercely slashed again with a schwa sound. This sword didn't pierce his heart because he had retreated quickly. Instead, it cut a big wound from his chest to his lower abdomen. The deepest part of the wound was his pink intestine, which had begun to bulge out. This sword attack was much more serious than Chu Fei Ling's saber attack. The black-clothed man looked at Chu Yang with disbelief in his eyes. What kind of divine weapon is that in his right hand? It almost killed me, an emperor-level expert, with the cultivation of a king-level expert. Then he burst into uncontrollable rage. This is a disgrace. I have no face. This old man was plotted against by a mere second-grade king-level expert. This had become the biggest joke in the entire heavenly layer. However, he didn't have time to get angry. He saw that this little guy didn't stop. He was looking at him with ice-cold eyes. His body and sword merged into one, and turned into a wild dragon. Then he violently rushed towards him. At the same time, a low and deep voice softly echoed, "What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world?" The voice wasn't loud, but it fiercely wedged itself into the deepest part of the black-clothed man's heart. The black-clothed man felt a crazy shock in his heart. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? This sword move isn't from the legends. This thought shocked him so much that he almost lost his ability to react. Such a legendary existence was actually encountered by him? If that's the case, then isn't this sword? However, the sword light had already reached his body. The black-clothed man stared in horror. He covered his stomach with one hand to stop his intestines from bulging out of his body. Then he waved his saber to block the attack. At the same time, he desperately retreated, flying back. However, Chu Yang's move, "What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world?" could be executed with his current strength. He could madly rush forward for 500 feet. Within 500 feet, it was enough to destroy everything in its path. There was nothing it couldn't destroy. Now that it had exploded within 30 feet, he couldn't dodge it no matter how he retreated. The sword and the saber collided. However, the black-clothed man was seriously injured. How could he block the sharpest calamity sword in the world? A loud sound was heard. Chapter 421. The black-clothed elder screamed as he clutched his stomach with his left hand. However, Chu Yang's face was calm. His eyes were cold as he chased after him. The sword light was still merciless. As soon as it touched the black-clothed elder, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. The black-clothed elder was still retreating, but the sword light was faster. Like a maggot, it quickly caught up. The calamity sword rushed into the black-clothed elder's chest. This was the first time the black-clothed elder was killed. The sword tip, sword edge and sword edge emitted a violent murderous aura at the same time. It was as if the elder's blood had awakened the ferocity that had been hidden for 10,000 years. The tyrannical sword energy immediately exploded in his internal organs. With a boom, countless sword energies broke through his body and rushed out of his body. His internal organs were all turned into powder at this moment. The black-clothed elder's body became soft like a deflated balloon. But his neck was still straight, and his eyes hadn't even changed from panic. He stood weakly with his back hunched, and looked at the shining sword that was stabbed into his chest. Suddenly, he raised his head with difficulty and looked at Chu Yang. He asked with difficulty, "You are the master of Calamity Sword?" Chu Yang's heart shook. He looked at the black-clothed elder with cold eyes and said lightly, "How do you know?" The black-clothed elder had lost all signs of life. Chu Yang was not afraid. Instead, he was curious that the black-clothed elder knew his identity. The black-clothed elder laughed bitterly. "What harm in slaughtering the entire world? I didn't expect that. Calamity Sword Master actually allowed me to open a market?" Chu Yang snorted, but his heart shook. The Yi clan was indeed the #1 clan in the heavenly layers. They actually remembered the names of the moves of Calamity Sword. In that case, it would be better for me not to call out these moves in the future. Damn it, I didn't expect that the habit of my previous life would have such a hidden danger. The black-clothed elder's eyes suddenly lit up. He opened his mouth and shouted, "He is..." Chu Yang let out a loud roar. The sword light slashed from bottom to top with a schwa sound, and split him into two halves. A head was separated from the middle. The two halves of the corpse slowly fell down. A saber emperor died in the hands of the newly matured Calamity Sword Master in these 3 days. Chu Yang coldly snorted. "This bastard wants to call out my identity even before he dies." With a wave of his hand, the 2 pieces of the black-clothed old man's broken saber were put into the tribulation space. If the rest of the people came and saw the 2 pieces of the saber, they would definitely be wary of their own divine weapons. This was something that they couldn't see. A long howl came from afar, followed by a green ray of light flying over like a meteor. Behind the green light, there were 8 other lights swaying as they approached. Chu Fei Ling suddenly landed and called out, "Little brother, are you all right?" Suddenly, he saw the black-clothed old man's corpse, and suddenly cried out in alarm. He opened his mouth wide and took 2 steps back. You killed him?" His voice was filled with disbelief. Chu Feiling had never been so surprised in his life. This was simply inconceivable. Heavens, who can explain what is going on? A weapon-grade saber emperor had chased after a 2nd-grade sword king. How could he have died in such a short time? But I'm not dreaming, am I? Chu Yang nodded in embarrassment. Chu Feiling was petrified. Shwa, shwa, shwa. Yi Ranimo and the others landed, and turned their heads to look around. How come only this little bastard is here? Where's Elder? Where did he go? Suddenly, a scream was heard. The black-clothed old 8 trembled as he pointed to the ground, and screamed, "Elder!" The other people discovered that there was a badly mutilated corpse on the ground. It was their younger brother's corpse. They couldn't help but cry out in alarm at the same time. Yi Ranimo flew into a rage. "Who killed my younger brother? Come out if you have the guts." The other 7 people pulled out their sabers and looked around. Their eyes were bitingly cold and filled with grief and indignation. The surroundings were empty. There wasn't even a sound to be heard. A gust of wind blew, and the yellow sand swirled in the air. The 8 people couldn't believe that their younger brother had been killed by this shrimp-like 2nd-grade king-level expert in front of them. It was impossible. How could a 3rd-grade emperor-level expert die in the hands of a 2nd-grade king-level expert? Even a person as stupid as a pig wouldn't associate it in this way. So, it must be someone else since he wasn't the one who killed him, and we saw Chu Feiling's corpse. Who is this person? Yi Ranimo looked up to the sky and roared. He then cursed loudly, "Fuck you! You dare to kill someone but don't dare to admit it? Come out. You're a despicable person who hides his head and shows his tail. You're a shameless villain who takes advantage of people's perilous state. You're going to be cut into pieces." The other 7 people also cursed loudly. Their eyes were bloodshot, and their emotions were stirred up. Chu Feiling opened his mouth and looked at these 8 people who had lost control of their emotions. Then he looked at the innocent and terrified murderer who was standing in front of him. He suddenly felt speechless from the bottom of his heart. Fuck? What's going on here? The murderer is right in front of you, okay? What are you looking for? The 8 people cursed for a long time until they were tired, so they stopped. However, their mouths were still cursing. Chu Yang turned a deaf ear to them. He put on a frightened expression and hid behind Chu Feiling. His expression was innocent and pure. He looked like a good youngster who had never seen a corpse before. Just look at his expression. This youngster's temperament is pure and honest. He's kind and innocent. He's like a flower that grew up in a greenhouse. Geronimo suddenly turned his head and fiercely looked at Chu Yang. "Little bastard. How did my brother die? What did you see? Tell me the truth." The other 7 people also suddenly realized that there was another witness here. They fiercely looked at Chu Yang. Their expressions were ferocious. It seemed as if they wanted to swallow Chu Yang whole. It's none of my business." Minister Chu's legs seemed to have gone soft from fear. His voice also trembled. "Tell me the truth." Geronimo roared, "I'll spare your life as long as you tell the truth." The expression on Chu Feiling's face became even more strange. In fact, it was somewhat distorted. Chu Yang trembled. "I'm so scared. Don't be afraid." Geronimo was very angry. However, he had no choice but to soften his tone in order to find out the real culprit who had killed his brother. He suppressed his anger and murderous intention. He then lowered his voice and comforted Chu Yang, "Don't be afraid. I won't kill you as long as you tell the truth. I'll even reward you." "Reward?" Chu Yang's eyes lit up. He greedily stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. Geronimo was very amiable. He even smiled. "What reward?" Minister Chu timidly asked. Geronimo was so angry that his belly almost exploded. However, Chu Feiling was glaring at him like a tiger watching its prey. So, it was impossible to interrogate him. This hateful little bastard is taking advantage of this opportunity to loot a burning house? He had no choice but to reach into his bosom and take out a purple crystal. "Do you see this? This purple crystal is yours as long as you tell me." The purple crystal that Geronimo had taken out was as big as a fist. It was sparkling and translucent with purple light. It seemed to be very valuable. Chu Feiling also chimed in, "Little brother, Brother Yi is very sincere. You should tell him. As for the account between us, there's no harm in settling it later." Geronimo straightened up. He looked at Chu Feiling with mixed feelings. Then, he said in a heavy voice, "Brother Chu is indeed a gentleman. This Yi admires you." Chu Feiling almost laughed out loud. He felt extremely carefree in his heart. He smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. That matter is that matter. Now, it's more important to find the real murderer. This Chu is a step late. I'm also very ashamed that I didn't see the real murderer." One of them wanted to give it to Chu Yang with sincerity. The other one wanted to help him. And Chu Yang wanted it wholeheartedly. Minister Chu stretched out his hand. He hesitantly took the purple crystal and put it in his pocket. Then he looked around with fear in his eyes. "I'm afraid that he's still in the vicinity." Geronimo heard this and understood the meaning behind his words. He turned his head and said, "You guys set up a perimeter. Keep a close watch on the surroundings. Don't let the murderer hurt this little brother." The little bastard has also become little brother, little brother. The 7 people complied and spread out. Geronimo had a fake smile on his face. He approached Chu Yang. The 2 of them were only a few steps away from each other. Then he said in an amiable manner, "Little brother, you can tell me now." He thought in his heart, If you tell me, I'll turn you into minced meat with my backhand. Then, I'll snatch that thing from you. Chu Yang trembled and nodded. His eyes revealed a look of fear as he said, I don't know what happened. I was running for my life. Then, that man in black clothes suddenly flew down from the sky. He fell down in a flash. Yi Ranmo's eyes flashed. Then he scolded me. I ran away. But, a voice suddenly came from that side. He said. Chu Yang's face exposed a look of extreme fear. It seemed that even the little bastard's face had turned pale. What did he say? Yi Ranmo immediately raised his attention. He squinted his eyes and looked in the direction where Chu Yang was pointing. Well, there seems to be a few piles of stones over there. Could it be that the murderer was hiding there? At that time he said. Chu Yang's voice became even lower. What did he say in the end? Yi Ranmo was somewhat impatient. He was paying attention to the piles of stones on one side. Then, he turned his head and impatiently urged Chu Yang. He said. Chu Yang stammered. Then, he suddenly roared. He said that he was going to fucking milk. This shout was like a thunderclap in spring. It shook Yi Ranmo's mind, and sent him into a state of chaos. Chu Yang didn't hesitate at all. The calamity sword silently appeared in his hand as he shouted. Then, he crazily attacked the head of the man who had tilted his head, and was waiting for an answer. Chu Yang's hands and feet seemed to have spasmed at this moment. One ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? A sharp will buried deep does not change. A gathering of wind and clouds is the emperor. A sword blade that has been famous for all eternity. Wind and clouds move in the west and east. The sun and the moon work together, splitting the mountains and breaking the peaks. The sky is blood red. A blade crosses the sky for 10,000 autumns. This road leads to the netherworld, cutting off the lovers of the mortal world. Everything ends where the edge goes. Skeletons in the palm of my hand are as high as a mountain. A pool of blood surges under the sword. The mortal world is the path of ruthlessness, beheading the whole world without retracting the blade. Chu Yang crazily unleashed 10 moves in a row. These moves were the most powerful sword techniques in both ancient and modern times. They were all unleashed on Yi Ranmo's head, which was tilting his head and waiting for an answer. The sword light was like a tsunami. It instantly filled the entire radius of 30 feet. It wasn't wasted at all. Chapter 422. The sword light exploded like a thunderbolt. The sword energy collapsed like a mountain. In a split second, everyone was stunned. Everyone was stunned. Chu Feiling was stunned as well. He had thought that this little guy would come out to vent his anger, and would jump behind him to seek protection. Therefore, Chu Feiling had made preparations to provide support. After all, one of the opponents had already died. It seemed that the terrifying array couldn't be used anymore. Therefore, Chu Feiling didn't need to fear the remaining 8 Saber Emperors since his cultivation was at the Saber Emperor level. However, he hadn't expected that this guy would make a move without any warning. Moreover, he had done it so violently. The remaining 7 Saber Emperors were also stupefied. Fuck! In the blink of an eye, this pitiful youngster had turned into the King of Hell, the King of Death? The most stunned one was Yi Ranmo, the great Saber Emperor. The old man was filled with resentment as he tilted his head to one side, preparing to listen to the news that he was most interested in from this little guy. Just as he was caught off guard, an extremely sharp sword aura suddenly erupted beside his head like a tsunami. This was a real tragedy. Yi Ranmo crazily screamed. He was trembling, spasming, and struggling. How could Chu Yang be merciful when he plundered them? It could be said that young Master Chu didn't know what it meant to be merciful in both his previous and current lives. The sword light fell like rain. Puff! The first responsibility was to erase Yi Ranmo's eyes, which were brimming with a strong thirst for knowledge. Yi Ranmo crazily screamed. The follow-up sword light had completely exploded. Shwa shwa shwa. Shwa shwa shwa. Yi Ranmo raised his hands to protect his head. Shwa shwa shwa. The sword light was extremely sharp. Yi Ranmo's arms had turned into white bones in 1/100th of a second. Then they got crushed. A big hole appeared in Yi Ranmo's chest with a puff sound. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? Everyone stared blankly at Yi Ranmo as if they had been struck by lightning. Yi Ranmo's body had been riddled with holes under the sword light. His head had turned into a skull without flesh and blood. Then his entire body had turned into a skeleton. Then, with a shrill sound, his body had turned into a scarlet-red color that fluttered in the air. Yi Ranmo had disappeared. It has to be said that Yi Ranmo was a dignified middle-grade saber emperor. But he had died in such an aggrieved manner. He hadn't even had a chance to fight back. It should be said that he hadn't even had the thought of fighting back. So he had died. If Yi Ranmo knew about this after his death, perhaps he would be so angry that he would come back to life, and then die of anger again. The most outrageous thing was that Yi Ranmo had already disappeared. But that crisscrossing executioner's light couldn't stop its momentum, and crazily hacked at the air that was filled with dense blood and flesh. Half of the sword light burst out. Chu Yang's body spun around. Before everyone had woken up, Chu Yang nimbly hid behind Chu Feiling. Then he gestured and ordered, "What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Hurry up and kill them." Chu Feiling opened his mouth wide and let out a clear, "Kacha" sound. He finally closed his mouth, but then opened it again. With a "d" sound, he sucked in a breath of cold air. After recovering from his shock, he turned around and looked at Chu Yang. You killed him?" Chu Feiling only felt that his mind was in a mess. How could this be? How could this be? How could a second-grade king-level expert break through an emperor-level expert's protective aura? A second-grade emperor-level expert's protective aura has already formed a protective Yuan gang. This was also the reason why Yi Ranmo had dared to come so close to him. Yi Ranmo couldn't have died in his hands no matter how one looked at it. But this had happened. Nonsense. Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said in a bad mood. He clearly felt that his IQ had been insulted. No matter how you look at it, there's still a 10% chance that they have the same origin. Why am I so smart, but you're so stupid? Chu Feiling's brain crashed. He couldn't react for a while. But what? Killing people is more important now. Chu Yang helplessly said, "Big brother, can't you ask after this matter is over?" They've all woken up. You see, you've delayed the timing. Chu Yang was so angry that his stomach hurt. Sure enough, the 7 people on the other side issued a strange cry in unison. It was a heart-wrenching pain. They didn't dare to believe it, but they had no choice but to believe it. "Big brother." Blood mist floated in the air. "What are you shouting for? Your big brother has turned into ashes." Chu Yang said in an evil voice. "What are you shouting for? It's an obvious fact. Your big brother has turned into ashes and you're still calling him big brother. You killed my big brother." The black-clothed old man turned around and looked at Chu Yang in anger. Then he suddenly roared in an earth-shattering manner, "You bastard! You deserve to die. Not only your big brother, but that one over there was also killed by me." Chu Yang proudly puffed out his chest. "What? Bite me if you have the ability. This old man is really fierce. What's wrong with that?" The black-clothed old man was so angry that his vision turned black. He roared wildly, "Kill him! Avenge big brother and little brother! Kill him! Fuck!" Chu Yang hastily turned to Chu Feiling. "Big brother, it's your turn to show your invincible might." Chu Feiling didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at him. He couldn't help but think in his heart, "Motherfucker, what kind of evil and inhumane parents can give birth to such a clown? This matter is really too much." Blade Edge. Blade Edge 4, that Yi Ranmo is also, provoking such an unparalleled little ancestor is really a stroke of bad luck. The 7 people over there had already rushed over with blood-red eyes. Facing them head-on, young Master Chu would never do something that didn't require skill. In fact, he wanted to do so. But he wasn't a match for any of these 7 people. He was afraid that he would be avenged if he rushed over. Therefore, Chu Yang hid behind Chu Feiling and waved his hand calmly, "Go." Chu Feiling couldn't help but roll his eyes. But he still obediently forward. Yi Ran Mo was the leader of the formation. So, the old man was also dead. The formation had already been defeated. So, how could the remaining 7 third-grade Saber Emperors be a match for Chu Feiling, who was at the peak of third-grade Saber Emperor's level? Chu Feiling cautiously pulled out his saber and went forward. But he was startled when he touched the saber. That's because the pressure he felt now was 3 or 4 times less than before. What's going on? Could it be that Yi Ranmo's death is so effective? Chu Feiling didn't show the slightest bit of mercy. His appearance was refined and scholarly, but his moves were ruthless. His saber took lives with each strike. The difference in strength between the two sides was too big. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. It was like a tiger had entered a flock of sheep. Big Brother Chu only attacked. He didn't defend. Every saber strike made the enemy flee in distress. But he didn't have to worry about the opposite party's offensive. His belly full of resentment from being besieged a moment ago finally broke out incisively and vividly. The saber light moved like rain. Chu Feiling had suppressed the 7 Saber Emperors with his strength alone. The entire scene of the battle was like a dazzling ball of light. It was refracting a magnificent and strange brilliance under the sunlight. Chu Yang stood outside the battle circle. The playful look on his face had already disappeared without a trace. He was trying to figure out what was going on. These 8 people are Emperor-level experts. Each of them has their own unique skills. And each of them is worth learning. The Spirit Executioner was unceasingly displaying the moves that each of these experts had used. Then he tirelessly pointed out the subtleties of each move. He pointed out where the next move was, and how to improve the attack to make it more powerful. He also pointed out how to defend himself if he were to face them. He also pointed out how to exploit their flaws. Chu Yang listened in a daze. Just as he was immersed in the endless mysteries of martial arts, he suddenly heard a scream. Chapter 423. Meanwhile, the other 4 people were staking their lives to keep Chu Feiling busy. If one were to ask them who they hated the most, there would only be one person: Chu Yang. He's too hateful. This despicable man. This shameless bastard. Not only did he kill people, but he also deceived them. Moreover, he also humiliated them. They would rather die than to kill him. They would pay any price to kill him. This was the common wish of the remaining 5 people. As long as they could kill Chu Yang, kill this little bastard, it would be worth it even if the 5 of them died under Chu Feiling's saber. The saber light came whistling. You can't stop it. Sword Spirit looked at the incoming attack and said in a heavy voice, "Either you retreat, or I'll do it." Chu Yang snorted. Then he turned around and flew back. Sword Spirit revealed a look of appreciation. This is the mentality of a powerhouse. He wouldn't rely on others as long as there was a glimmer of hope. Chu Yang wouldn't rely on Sword Spirit as long as he wasn't in a life-or-death situation. He would only rely on himself. He would only explode in a desperate situation. He would make the greatest progress in a life-and-death situation. Chu Yang wouldn't make any progress if Sword Spirit were to bear all the dangers. It would have a great impact on his path to becoming a powerhouse in the future if he were to develop a little dependence on Sword Spirit. Chu Yang's body drifted from east to west like a light smoke. Beyond the heavens, Sek's fleeting snow cloud steps were unleashed to the extreme at this moment. The black-robed second brother roared like thunder. He gritted his teeth and wished he could chop Chu Yang into meat paste. He swore that he wouldn't use the saber's edge to chop Chu Yang if he caught up with him. He would use the back of his saber to smash Chu Yang. He would smash Chu Yang into meat paste, and then eat him bite by bite. The incessant screams proved that his brother was being mercilessly slaughtered by Chu Feiling. The black-robed second brother resisted the urge to look back. My mission is to kill this little bastard. Kill. Little brother is in danger. Chu Feiling roared impatiently. Suddenly, a pale golden light erupted from his body. The saber light was like a white cloud in the sky encountering a hurricane. Layer after layer, it crazily surged up. Before the first wave had subsided, another wave rose up. The saber light shimmered and stretched on endlessly. This was Chu Feiling's ultimate skill, life and death saber art of reincarnation. This was Chu Feiling's self-created unique skill. Even the sword spirit in Chu Yang's mind was amazed by this move. The rolling sea of saber light engulfed the 4 heavily wounded bodies in an instant. Continuous blood-curdling screams resounded, and the 4 figures flew up at the same time with blood dripping from their bodies. Their bodies had already been torn into pieces in midair. The saber light surged and formed a bright white line. It blocked out the sunlight and shot through the sky at the speed of a meteor. Then, he madly rushed towards the direction where the black-robed second brother was chasing after Chu Yang. The black-robed second brother roared repeatedly. He could already feel the pressure behind him. He knew that his brothers were either dead or injured. However, this little bastard was as slippery as a loach. He had missed him by a hair's breadth several times. But he had slipped away again. He fiercely roared, and an arrow of blood suddenly flew out of his body. He had used a secret technique to stimulate his own vitality at this moment. His strength had doubled in the blink of an eye. His big saber rolled up a gust of wind, and formed a huge saber flower. Then he launched an indiscriminate attack towards Chu Yang within a radius of 300 feet. This was also his last attack. Chu Yang coldly snorted. He couldn't avoid it. His long sword automatically jumped out with a clang. He was about to launch the Calamity Sword technique, in the blink of an eye. It seemed that a head-on fight was unavoidable this time. Suddenly, a long whistle was heard, and a saber light crazily pierced between the 2 men. A black-clothed man's silhouette stood firmly in front of Chu Yang, and blocked the raging waves that were surging towards Chu Yang. Chu Yang suddenly felt an inexplicable warmth in his heart. He looked at the tall and straight figure in front of him. It seemed that, no matter what difficulties or hardships he faced, this figure would be able to block them. Chu Feiling didn't have it easy either. He forcibly released his energy, and finally arrived at this moment. He immediately faced the black-robed second brother's saber light, which had doubled in strength. He shouted loudly, and his big saber transformed into a green barrier to protect himself and Chu Yang. Then, he shook his wrist, and the life and death saber and the reincarnation sea were launched again. A blood-curdling scream was heard. The black-robed second brother was sent flying into the sky by the saber energy. Then, he suddenly disintegrated in the air, and turned into a bloody paste. Chu Feiling's body swayed, and he finally stood firm. His shoulders, chest, and thighs were bleeding at the same time. In the end, this hasty attack still caused him to suffer a serious injury. If it weren't for saving Chu Yang, he could have calmly faced the enemy, and fought until the end. Then he could have killed these 7 people one by one, and he could have ensured that his body wouldn't have any scars. However, he couldn't control his outburst when he saw that Chu Yang was in danger. He didn't regret it. Finally, the smell of blood in the air slowly dissipated. Chu Feiling turned around, and the cold, murderous aura on his body had been completely withdrawn. He looked at Chu Yang, and revealed a pleasant smile. "Little brother, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Chu Yang only felt a burst of excitement in his heart, and he almost couldn't speak. He was also puzzled by his own reaction. Why was he so agitated today? "You're injured?" Chu Yang suddenly felt a pain in his heart when he saw the flesh and blood on Chu Feiling's body. "It doesn't matter. This small injury is nothing to me." Chu Feiling sheathed his saber, and tied it around his waist like a belt. Then he smiled plainly. Then he took out a pill from his bosom, and was about to swallow it. He even smiled at Chu Yang. "I have this pill with me." Chu Yang forced a smile. Then he suddenly realized something and said, "Use my pill." He took out an incomplete version of the heavy pill, and handed it over to Chu Feiling. Chu Feiling stared blankly. He looked at Chu Yang's sincere face, and couldn't help but laugh heartily. He said, "Okay, I'll use your pill, little brother." Chu Feiling took it, and was about to swallow it when he smelled a strong fragrance. He felt as if his mind had suddenly become clear-headed, and his spirit had been greatly aroused when he smelled this fragrance. He couldn't help but be startled. This pill is absolutely not ordinary. What is the origin of this mysterious little brother? Not only can he kill a saber emperor with the cultivation of Sword King, but he also has such a miraculous pill with him. This pill is obviously a priceless treasure. Chu Fei Ling held the pill in his hand and thought of his wife. She had been blaming herself ever since she lost her son 8 years ago. She had been depressed for 8 years and had been depressed. She had developed a heartache over time. This pill, my injury is only a flesh wound. It would be a pity to take it. Why don't I take it back with me? Chu Fei Ling smiled somewhat embarrassedly. He took the pill and said, "Little brother, my injury is only a flesh wound. It will be fine after applying some external medicine. But I have another use for this pill of yours. Ha ha, I'm sorry to say this, but my wife has an old heartache problem. I want to take this pill back for her to take." Ha, Chu Fei Ling was somewhat embarrassed. He gave you a pill out of kindness to heal your injury. But you want to hide it and take it back for your wife? Chu Fei Ling felt that it was somewhat unreasonable to say these words. It's too shameless, so what? Chu Yang waved his hand. I'll give you another one. Chu Yang generously took out another pill and gave it to Chu Fei Ling. This? How can I accept this? Chu Fei Ling was somewhat flabbergasted. Isn't this too generous? This is a panacea for healing injuries. How can you take it out one by one as if it's candy? Chu Yang waved his hand and said without any heartache, "Isn't it just 2 pills? If it's not enough, I have more here." To be honest, he didn't feel any heartache. He now had 2 kinds of miraculous pills in his hands. He had a lot of these incomplete heavy pills, and it wouldn't be troublesome to produce 8 or 10 of them. Thank you very much, Chu Fei Ling solemnly thanked him. This is the first time I've seen such a pill even though I'm the leader of a clan in the upper 3 heavens. How can it be common goods? Chu Fei Ling thought for a while, and still couldn't bear to eat it. He carefully put away the 2 pills. He applied the golden sore medicine on himself. It wasn't that he didn't want to eat it. His father was injured and bedridden. He needed to nourish his body when he recovered. However, this part could not be mentioned again. To be able to make the other party gift 2 medicinal pills, he already owed them 2 huge favors. Even if Chu Yang gave more, Chu Fei Ling would be too embarrassed to ask for more. Moreover, strictly speaking, Chu Yang saved me today. This means that I still owe him a life-saving grace. Chu Yang was somewhat speechless. You're really? I gave you 2 pills, but you didn't eat them? Chu Fei Ling smiled awkwardly. He was very embarrassed. The old handsome man's face was also somewhat red. Cough cough, my behavior is really a bit, but it's better than wasting them. Now that the Yi clan is dead, I don't have any threat in the upper 3 heavens. My injuries, why did they recover so quickly? After dressing up properly, Chu Fei Ling's wounds were also bandaged. Under Chu Fei Ling's flabbergasted gaze, Chu Yang rummaged through the flesh and blood of the emperor-level expert. He didn't care about the filth at all, and put away some things based on the principle of not wasting things. He was worthy of being an emperor-level expert. He had a lot of things on him. There were more than a dozen purple crystals. Chu Yang was somewhat satisfied in his heart. There are also a lot of elixirs. Now I can recoup my losses. How can the elixirs on an emperor-level expert be ordinary? The 2 continued on their journey, but there were obviously more topics to talk about along the way. But, Brother Chu, you must have something important to do in the upper 3 heavens. Otherwise, you wouldn't have attracted so many people to hunt you down. What is it? Chu Yang suddenly felt very awkward when he called out, Big Brother Chu. He scolded himself in his heart. Damn it, what should I call him if not Big Brother Chu? Should I call him Uncle Chu? I do have something to do. Chu Fei Ling's face was heavy. He heaved a long sigh. My father is injured. He needs to find elixirs to go back, alas. Speaking till here, he suddenly patted his forehead. He couldn't help laughing and said, I'm really muddle-headed. We have been together for so long, and I have received many favors from you. But I actually forgot to ask. Little brother, what's your name? Ah, Chu Yang's heart turned a few times like lightning. He finally smiled and said, "It's a coincidence that we are actually from the same clan. My surname is also Chu. My name is Chu Yang. Your surname is also Chu." Chu Feiling was startled. Chapter 424. Your surname is also Chu? Chu Feiling was stunned. Was there such a coincidence? Yes, my name is Chu Yang. Chu Yang's heart trembled. He mischievously smiled and said, "What a coincidence, right? What a coincidence." Chu Fei's heart surged. Could it be my son? She quietly released her aura to sense the purple crystal jade essence. But she didn't find anything. She only felt the purple crystal jade in Chu Yang's pocket. She had just robbed Geronimo. She couldn't help but sigh in self-mockery. She secretly scolded herself for being greedy. How could he be her son? What wishful thinking! This young man was extraordinarily heroic, resourceful, and resolute in his actions. Most importantly, he had a kind of demeanor that could only be cultivated by someone who had been in a high position for a long time. He was definitely from a great clan, and his background was definitely not ordinary. I miss my son. But I shouldn't have such delusions. My son has been abandoned in the lower three heavens since he was a child. I don't even know if he's dead or alive. Even if he's adopted, he won't be able to live a comfortable life. How could he grow up to be such a young hero? The two of them simply couldn't be compared. Thinking of this, Chu Fei sighed sadly. She was really going crazy from missing her son? What? It's hard to find the medicine. Chu Yang saw him sighing and asked with concern. It's not an ordinary difficulty. Chu Feizi looked at the raging fire mountain range in front of him, and said in a deep voice, "If the raging fire mountain range doesn't exist, I'm afraid it doesn't exist. It's something that only exists in legends." Oh? Chu Yang was silent for a while. Then he asked, "What medicine? Is it that hard to find?" Chu Fei let out a long sigh. He thought of the gap between his son and the young man in front of him. He thought of the mess that his family was in. He thought of how his brothers had killed each other. He thought of the tragedy in his family and how his wife was unhappy. Suddenly, he lost interest and said, "Let's look around." He actually avoided Chu Yang's question. He knew that since Chu Yang had asked this question, he was intending to help. But he already owed him so many favors. How could he still have the nerve to accept his help? Chu Feizhen was also a proud and unyielding person. How could he allow himself to owe someone a favor endlessly? Chu Feizhi accelerated and rushed into the raging fire mountain range. Chu Yang frowned and followed him in. He used his consciousness to analyze the situation and said, he must have come to the raging fire mountain range to look for a kind of extremely fierce fire attribute spirit medicine. This kind of medicine is extremely difficult to grow. So, I reckon that the possibility of finding it is not high. Chu Yang nodded and said, "That's right. Even elixirs are mostly plants. In such a hot place, I'm afraid that even a person would be roasted dry in half a day. What kind of plants can survive?" "That's right." The sword spirit heaved a long sigh and said, "I can see that you and he hit it off very well. You really want to help him. Why don't you let the sword point sense it? Who knows, maybe you'll gain something." Chu Yang nodded lightly. In the next moment, the tribulation carving scraper silently appeared on Chu Yang's fingertips. The two of them circled around the raging fire mountain range for a while, but Chu Feizi's expression became more and more gloomy. Right at this moment, Chu Yang suddenly felt the tip of the tribulation carving vibrate. The carving tip was clearly pointing to the east. Chu Yang's heart moved. He said, "Let's go over there and take a look." "All right." Chu Feiling nodded. The two of them moved as if they were flying. Chu Yang intentionally walked in front of Chu Feizi. They turned a corner, and a burst of faint medicinal fragrance suddenly came over. Chu Yang's spirit was lifted. But Chu Feizi's face exposed a disappointed look. Mysterious Yang Jade essence and mysterious Yang Jade can't emit such fragrance. The two of them walked closer. They saw that a piece of land had miraculously appeared in the middle of the raging fire mountain. There was a small hole in the ground. It was only as big as the mouth of a bowl. The medicinal fragrance was coming from this hole. The temperature here had reached a point where ordinary people couldn't bear it. Even a second-grade king-level expert like Chu Yang wouldn't be able to bear it if he didn't have the 7 shades cold energy on his body. What kind of medicine is inside? Chu Yang's eyes lit up. Chu Feizi smiled faintly and said, "I'll go and take it out. Then I'll give it to you." Then he took a step forward. His palm emitted a purple saber light and grabbed the hole. A large piece of iron-like purple-red stone was lifted up and revealed a bigger hole. Chu Feizi's figure flashed into the hole like lightning. Chu Yang only heard a muffled groan from inside, followed by the sound of fighting. Then Chu Feizi flew out. One of his hands was holding a lump of purplish-red soil. It was emitting a suffocating heat. On the soil, there was a lilac crystal clear Ganoderma lucidum. It was as if it was transparent. The strong medicinal fragrance was coming from this Ganoderma lucidum. The sword point vibrated rhythmically. It was obvious that it was very excited. Flaming purple crystal Lingji mushroom. The sword-scraping spirit sighed and said, "It looks like it's more than 3,000 years old. Its value will be immeasurable if it turns purple." Chu Yang laughed in his heart. He knew why the sword spirit had sighed. It was because this Lingji mushroom wasn't old enough. It was obvious that the sword spirit would have to use the sword-scraping spirit to accelerate its ripening. Chu Fei Ling's other hand was holding a strange silver-white snake. It was as thick as a wrist. Its 7 inches had been cut off by him. There's such a monster guarding the elixir inside. Its skin and flesh are very strong. Chu Fei Ling smiled and handed over the purple crystal Lingji mushroom. "Here you go, little brother." "You don't want it?" Chu Yang asked in astonishment. "Isn't this the elixir you're looking for?" "Yes, it isn't." Chu Fei Ling sighed and threw the purple crystal Ganoderma over. Then he skillfully skinned and deboned the silver snake. He took out its inner core and said, "This is a rare star silver snake. Don't be fooled by its small size. It's at least a 7th-grade spirit beast. Its scales are invulnerable to swords and spears. Moreover, it can avoid energy attacks. Its inner core is formed in a raging fire, so it has a little pure yang energy. It may be of some use to my father's injury. I won't let you down." Chu Fei Ling neatly peeled off the scales and gave them a simple treatment. Then he handed over the snake's body to Chu Yang. "This snake's meat has a fire spirit source. If you eat some every day, it can increase your cultivation. This snake's skin can also be used to make a small waistcoat to cover the important parts. It can be regarded as a valuable treasure in the Jianghu." Chu Yang didn't refuse. He knew that Chu Fei Ling wasn't being polite to him. So, it would seem estranged if he refused. Chu Yang received these 2 things. Then, he couldn't help but ask, "This purple crystal Lingji mushroom is a priceless treasure. Moreover, it's in the Raging Fire Mountain range. I'm afraid that there aren't many elixirs like this. What kind of elixir are you looking for? Is it so difficult to find?" "Yes, I've given up on this Raging Fire Mountain range after seeing the purple crystal Lingji mushroom. Because I'm afraid that the purple crystal Lingji mushroom won't grow here." Chu Fei Ling heaved a long sigh and said, "Yes, my father is a monarch-level expert of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. The cold blood poison can only be treated with the mysterious Yang Jade. Alas, it won't work here. It seems that I'll have to go somewhere else to try my luck." He only dared to pin his hopes on the mysterious Yang Jade. As for the mysterious Yang Jade, that's just a legend, okay? Chu Fei Ling looked at Chu Yang with some reluctance. He said in a heavy voice, "Yes, little brother. I'll have to say goodbye to you after we leave the Raging Fire Mountain range. You take care of yourself." "Cold blood poison?" Chu Yang opened his eyes wide. "Mysterious Yang Jade?" Then he suddenly slapped his thigh. "Fuck! Why didn't you say so earlier?" Chu Yang had never dreamt that the elixir that Chu Fei Ling had been looking for would be in his possession. Moreover, he had such a big pile of it. The sword spirit's face twitched in the tribulation space. He gnashed his teeth. Squandering, Squandering? I'm about to squander everything. Fuck. Do you think it's easy to get some mysterious yang jade? The sword spirit sighed sadly as he looked at the hill-like pile of mysterious yang jade in front of him. He had no choice but to take out 2 more pieces. Chu Fei's voice sounded in his mind, take good ones. Take the heart, and at least the size of your fist. Chu Feiling's eyes became moist. This bastard. He's too generous. He endured the heartache and broke off a small piece from his heart. He felt as if his heart was bleeding. However, he didn't know what Chu Yang was feeling in his heart. I have to be cautious. The injured one is likely to be my grandfather's generation. I don't know what to do with my family background, but I can't just stand by and watch someone die. I don't even know who this person in front of me is. There's someone in his family who's against him. What if the one who's against him is his real father? Then, I'll be in for a tragedy. I've just returned to my family, and I'm already on the road to the underworld. Chu Feiling was so excited that his face had turned red. He looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. Little brother, he wanted to ask, do you have mysterious yang jade? However, he was extremely afraid of being disappointed. So he didn't dare to ask. However, his heart was beating faster and faster. In fact, it seemed as if it would jump out of his throat. Isn't it just mysterious yang jade? Young Master Chu played it down and said pretentiously, I thought it was something good. Look at how worried you are. Chu Feiling almost fainted. Listen, what are you talking about? Isn't it just mysterious yang jade? How can you talk like that? That's the most precious treasure of the Chongtian continent. Oh my god. Friend, you're saying you have it? Chu Feizi asked cautiously. Yes, I have a piece of mysterious yang jade here. I don't know if it's enough. Chu Yang turned his hand, and a pink and transparent piece of mysterious yang jade appeared in his palm. It was fist-sized. The high temperature in the surroundings seemed to recede as soon as he took it out. It became warm and comfortable. Chu Feizi's eyes went wide in an instant. His eyes were fixed on the core of the mysterious yang jade. He didn't even blink. In fact, he almost wept tears of joy at this moment. This is the life of an old father. Mysterious yang jade core. All sorts of feelings welled up in Chu Feizi's heart. I only need mysterious yang jade. But this little brother has taken out so many mysterious yang jade cores. This is such a big favor. This is such a great friendship. Chapter 425. Are these enough? Elder Brother Chu? Chu Yang had gotten used to calling him Elder Brother Chu. Yes, it's enough. It's absolutely enough. Chu Feiling's body trembled as he said, actually, 1 piece is enough. These are too much. Chu Yang disagreed and said, take them all. After all, this matter is of great importance. You can't be careless. It'll be troublesome if it's not enough. Chu Feiling excitedly extended his hand. But he suddenly retracted his hand and said with a stern look, little brother, this mysterious yang jade core is a priceless treasure. I won't feel at ease if I take it from you. You name a price and I'll buy it. He smiled in a somewhat ashamed manner and said, of course, no matter the price, it can't be compared to the true value of this mysterious yang jade core. But, please give me a chance. Let my heart feel a little better. You're treating me as an outsider. Chu Yang smiled and said, we've gone through fire and water together. And it was you who stood in front of me at the critical moment. You're making me sad if you still want to talk about money with such a friendship. Chu Feiling was obviously excited. His eyes were somewhat red. He said in a hoarse voice, thank you, little brother. He finally took the mysterious yang jade core. He secretly made a decision in his heart. Little brother doesn't want any reward. But I won't treat him unfairly. The most important thing for a cultivator is the promotion of strength. And purple crystals play a big role in the promotion of strength. I can't come up with a lot of purple crystals. But the Chu clan can still come up with a few thousand purple crystals. And I'll use purple crystals to help little brother promote his strength when the time comes. It's worth it to pay a few thousand purple crystals for this love. It's worth it. Chu Feiling already had the mysterious young jade core in his hand. But he still felt like he was in a dream. This problem that has perplexed the entire clan has been solved just like that? Moreover, he's the first person I've found in these 3 days. And he's the only person I've found in order to act as a guide. But he has the mysterious young jade. Chu Feiling felt that his luck was very good. Both of them walked out of the raging fire mountain range as quickly as possible. They then found a shady place to sit down and rested for a while. Little brother, may I ask where your master? Chu Feiling was in a good mood. So, he was in the mood to chat. Little brother, you must be from a big clan, right? My master's surname is Meng. Chu Yang chuckled. A complicated look flashed through his eyes as he said, as for my clan, it's indeed not small. Haha, I guess so. If it were an ordinary clan, I'm afraid that they wouldn't have been able to cultivate such a talent like you. Chu Feiling sighed with emotion. He said enviously, little brother's parents must be very happy to have a son like you. He sighed sadly as he spoke. Obviously, he was thinking about his missing son. My parents? Chu Yang was somewhat absent-minded. He let out a hollow laugh. Well, by the way, little brother, you and I feel like old friends at first sight. We treat each other with utmost sincerity. We get along very well. I also feel that little brother is a dragon among men. I have an idea, but I don't know if I should say it or not. Chu Feiling suddenly became somewhat excited. What is it? Chu Yang asked in astonishment. Since you and I hit it off so well, how about we become sworn brothers? Chu Feiling said excitedly, of course. Little brother, your future is limitless. Today, I'll take it that you're out of my league. Chu Yang was dumbfounded. What? Become sworn brothers? You and I... Can we become sworn brothers? Chu Yang swallowed his saliva with difficulty. He let out a hollow laugh. This isn't very good, right? You're an emperor-level expert, a big shot. Little brother, I'm going to get angry if you say this. Chu Feiling's face turned serious. He said unhappily, could it be that little brother doesn't like me? Oh no. Chu Yang hurriedly waved his hand. I don't mean that. Do you think that I'm a burden? Chu Feiling pretended to be angry. No. Chu Yang stammered. His forehead was almost sweating. Great master, can you not play with me like this? Oh God, what do you want me to do? Then, can you give me a reason why you don't want to become sworn brothers with me? Chu Feiling didn't give up. Chu Yang was at a loss. Oh God, what should I say? Chu Yang had lived 2 lives. But he had never been so distressed. He had never been in such a dilemma. No reason? Then what do you have to worry about? Chu Feiling smiled with relief. Besides, this is only between us brothers. It has nothing to do with your clan. Of course, if little brother thinks highly of me, you can go to the Chu clan of the upper 3 heavens when you have time. Chu Yang's face was full of black lines. He was speechless. On the other side, Chu Feiling's movements were very fast. He had already set up the altar. Then he patted Chu Yang's shoulder and laughed. Brother, come. Chu Yang wasn't prepared. He was slapped to the ground and knelt down. He only felt a mess in his heart. But he couldn't give any reason. This feeling was very strange. The heavens above and the earth below. Today I, Chu Feiling, and Chu Yang are sworn brothers. Cough, sworn brothers. From now on, we will share our blessings. If my brother is in trouble, I will bear the burden. The heavens and the earth will bear witness. Chu Feiling's expression was solemn. Chu Yang had already fainted. He was in a daze. He didn't know what he had done. Chu Feiling saw that he was in a trance. So, he couldn't help but pat him on the back. Chu Yang was confused. He kowtowed a few times. Then he stood up and saw Chu Feiling looking at him with gratification. Young Master Chu's mind was in a daze. He suddenly sobered up. This is bad. He couldn't help but want to cry. What the fuck is going on? Brother. Chu Feiling looked at him with concern. Your complexion is very bad. Haha. Chu Yang didn't cry or laugh. He just grinned. Chu Feiling was in a very good mood. He smiled and said, "Today is really the lucky day of my life. Not only have I found a good brother who is worthy of being friends with me, but I'm also indebted to you for your generous gift. I've also obtained the most valuable treasure in the world, mysterious young jade core, which can cure my father's illness. I've put down a big stone in my heart." He heaved a long sigh and said, "I won't hide it from you. I haven't been so happy for 18 years. Alas, I can't bear to look back on the past. My heart feels like it's being cut by a knife." All sorts of feelings welled up in Chu Feiling's heart as he recalled his experiences in the past 18 years. He had always buried these worries in his heart. He had never had the opportunity to pour them out to anyone. He was very emotional today because he had found a brother. Moreover, this brother obviously had nothing to do with his clan. So, he couldn't help but want to pour out his grievances. Chu Yang's sluggish eyes turned numbly as he said, "Don't tell me, you still have some hidden troubles?" It's hard to say. Chu Feiling laughed bleakly. He shook his head and sighed, "I won't hide it from you, brother. My life has been worse than death for the past 18 years. My heart feels like it's being twisted by a knife every night. My soul feels like it's being torn apart." Chu Yang seemed to have sensed something. The corners of his mouth twitched as he said, "I'd like to hear the details. I was just about to pour my heart out to you." Chu Feiling heaved a long sigh. "This painful matter has been in my heart for the past 18 years. I've never forgotten it," he exhaled deeply. His eyes seemed to be looking at empty space as he said, "I remember that my Chu clan encountered a great crisis 18 years ago. At that time, my child had just been born. His grandmother missed her grandson, so she invited us over. My wife and I took the child and stayed there for a period of time." Chu Yang's eyes widened. His throat made some noises. His heart was heavy as he repeatedly complained, Motherfucker, what is this? How can there be such a disgraceful thing in the world? I've become sworn brothers with my grandmother. This is really..." Chu Feiling had already sunk into painful memories. "A month later, your sister-in-law and I returned from my father-in-law's house with the child in our arms. But we were suddenly besieged by strong enemies on the way back. 2 of our guards were killed on the spot. They risked their lives to save us. Then we fled, but the enemies chased us all the way. We couldn't return to the Chu clan. The enemies had dispatched a large number of people for that attack. If we returned to the clan rashly, I'm afraid we would be killed." Chu Feiling sighed. "We had no choice but to hide everywhere with the child in our arms. But we were chased by the enemies until we had nowhere to go. Seeing that we were in imminent danger, we happened to reach the entrance of the double heavens. We had no choice but to bring the child to the lower 3 heavens. But the enemies chased after us relentlessly. They chased us down and fought several fierce battles. The 2 of us were no match for them at all. We desperately rushed out several times and escaped all the way to the lower 3 heavens. It was a snowy night." Chu Feiling's eyes glistened with tears. Chu Yang seemed to have felt the chill of that windy and snowy night. He quivered and shuddered. "That night, we were finally chased to the end of the road. I was seriously injured and didn't have long to live. My wife also suffered 7 or 8 serious injuries. Even her left leg was broken." Chu Feiling sighed sadly. "At that time, we knew that it would be difficult for us to escape death. But our child was still young. How could he suffer the same fate as us? But we were in the lower 3 heavens at that time. We had no relatives and it was late at night. We ran all the way. We didn't know where we were. We only knew that we were in the forest. Finally, when we saw a dilapidated temple, we were already on the verge of death. My wife and I had no choice but to put our child in the temple. Then, we wrapped a stone in our arms and continued to run. We wanted to lure the enemies away so that our child could have a chance to survive." Chu Feiling's voice was sorrowful and trembling. It was as if he had returned to that cold, snowy night 18 years ago. Chu Yang, who was listening at the side, only felt a burst of bitterness in his heart. He couldn't help but feel a lump in his throat. 2 streams of tears fell down. The two of us continued to run for our lives. In order to divert the enemy's attention, we jumped down the cliff with that stone. Chu Fei Ling smiled bitterly and said, "But we didn't expect that there would always be a way out. We were only able to jump down a few hundred feet before we were stopped." It turned out that the vines there had grown for a long time and formed a big net, which saved us. Then, we found a rare treasure on the cliff, the snow lotus of elegance. Chapter 426. Snow Lotus of Elegance. Chu Yang muttered to himself unconsciously. Yes, it's Snow Lotus of Elegance. There are two flowers of Snow Lotus of Elegance, one black and one white. One is yin and the other is yang. Yin and yang complement each other. It can cure chronic diseases, cure terminal illnesses, increase martial power, and break through bottlenecks. Chu Feiling said, "My wife and I each took half of it. Our injuries were healed in a short time. Moreover, our martial power improved greatly. Both of us broke through to second-grade emperor level. It's a blessing in disguise." Chu Yang sighed deeply. "A blessing in disguise, huh?" Chu Fei Ling smiled bitterly and said, "My wife and I felt that our injuries were healed. So, we immediately rushed back. We killed more than a dozen enemies who were chasing us along the way. We didn't even have time to interrogate them. We rushed to that ruined temple, but the child was gone." Chu Fei Ling's voice was filled with grief. "The child is gone." Chu Yang muttered to himself blankly. He suddenly felt that the hatred towards his family and his parents for abandoning him had disappeared at this moment. Both of us went crazy. We kept looking for him. We even searched the nearby mountains. But we didn't find him. We returned to the upper three heavens after a long time. But that poor child has always been in our hearts for the past 18 years. It's as if a thorn has grown in our hearts. My wife missed him day and night. She looked haggard. Her martial power hasn't improved in the past 18 years. Instead, she fell from second-grade emperor level to first-grade emperor level. She even suffered from chronic chest pain. The entire clan treated us as a laughingstock. My father-in-law and mother-in-law viewed us as enemies. All these years." Chu Feiling sighed sadly. "All these years, how can the word bitter be enough to describe it?" Chu Yang was completely dumbfounded. There was no doubt that this person in front of him, this sworn brother of his, was his biological father. Chu Feiling sighed and turned his head. But he saw that Chu Yang's face was streaked with tears. He couldn't help but be startled. "Brother, what happened to you?" "Boo. I'm so moved." Chu Yang wiped his tears and revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Chu Yang's heart was tangled. He now had a strong impulse to immediately rush up and hug him, and tell this man who had suffered so much all these years, "I am your son. I am the son you lost 18 years ago." But, damn it. But he couldn't. Especially, the two of them had just become sworn brothers. Moreover, it was half forced by Chu Feiling. If Chu Feiling were to tell him the truth now, he would probably die of shame before he could even be surprised. Heavens, I forced myself to become sworn brothers with my own son? Who could stand such a thing? More importantly, I still have a heavy responsibility on my shoulders. I have the responsibility of being the master of Calamity Sword. I have to save Xiao Wu. If I return to my ancestry now, I will continue to unify the lower three heavens. And I am afraid that my identity as the master of Calamity Sword will be exposed. Of course, he could trust his parents. But the problem was, the Chu family wasn't as united as before. Who knew who had ulterior motives in the clan? No matter who it was, if his identity as the master of the Calamity Sword was exposed, he would implicate the entire Chu clan and cause them to disappear. Acknowledging a son but causing the destruction of the clan was not a great joy, but a great sorrow. If he didn't give any reason for staying in the lower three heavens to develop, he was afraid that this old Wu and his mother would swallow him alive. At the very least, they would send a few experts to protect him. But how could the experts of the Chu clan hide from the eyes and ears of the big dominant clans? Wouldn't this be akin to exposing himself? Chu Yang was very conflicted. Sword Spirit, is there a way to cure this chest pain? Chu Yang asked the Sword Spirit in his mind anxiously. Chest pain? The Sword Spirit snorted. What kind of illness is this? It's just a knot of longing that causes the meridians to be blocked. That's all. Then, can it be cured with the complete version of the heavy pill? Chu Yang asked expectantly. That's my mother. Even if I can't acknowledge her for the time being, I have to make sure she's fine. Big brother, there's no need for that, right? The Sword Spirit shrieked. The incomplete version of the heavy pill has already cured this problem to the best of its ability. Using the complete version of the heavy pill is a complete waste of God's gift. That's a treasure that can raise one's cultivation by a whole realm. You can't continue to squander like this. No matter how rich our family is, it can't withstand such torment. The Sword Spirit was so heartbroken that he was about to cry. This is the most precious medicine in the entire lower three heavens. It's not a cabbage on the roadside. Even if it's a supreme being level expert, it'll still have a great effect after taking it. Raise one's cultivation by a whole realm. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. That's great. It can increase my mother's ability to protect herself. The Sword Spirit slapped his own mouth in regret. My mouth is so cheap. Why did I say this? Raise one's cultivation by a whole realm. Why didn't you say so earlier? Chu Yang asked in puzzlement. That can only be used by emperor-level experts and above. With your current cultivation, I can only store the medicinal efficacy after taking it. Otherwise, you'll turn into a pile of feces. The Sword Spirit snorted angrily. Chu Yang excitedly raised his eyebrows. Then he suddenly thought of something. I have to help the old man improve a bit. Otherwise, I won't be at ease with him being surrounded by danger every day. Can I have 2 heavy pills? Chu Yang asked. Then I won't have Imo-Ching woos. The Sword Spirit rolled his eyes. This guy is addicted to squandering. Nonsense. Chu Yang said angrily, we have Jade Snow Spirit Ginseng, Mysterious Ice Jade Paste, Mysterious Yang Jade Essence, and Vitality Spring Water. There are so many elixirs. Now, we also have Sea of Flame Purple Crystal Ganoderma. So, it should be easy to produce several heavy pills, right? How can it not be enough? The Sword Spirit was so distressed that his whole body shivered. Can I call you Lord Sword Lord? Lord Sword Lord. This is a great waste. This is an unforgivable sin. Listen to me. Let's do it. Chu Yang said in an overbearing manner. We can only produce 1 pill at most. We can only use a little bit of the Mysterious Ice Jade Paste and Mysterious Yang Jade Essence. The Sword Spirit bargained with a firm look on his face. He didn't yield an inch, otherwise I'd rather die. Only 1 pill at a time. Minister Chu gave in. Is there anything else? The Sword Spirit saw that this guy was still hesitating to speak. So, he couldn't help but get angry. I have to give them 2 weapons so that they can protect themselves. Chu Yang said with a greedy face. You also saw that the saber is a little soft. It's not very useful. I've already prepared it. The Sword Spirit angrily said. I knew that you would trouble me the moment I saw you crying over there. So, I made them for you in advance. Take them. With a clang, he threw out a sword and a saber. You're a good person, Minister Chu said in a grateful manner. I would have given myself to you if you were a woman. I would have taken you as my wife. Get out of here. The Sword Spirit shivered and goosebumps appeared all over his body. He was a spirit, but he still felt his hair stand on end at this moment. There's one more thing. Can you make a few pills that can perfectly conceal one's strength and prevent others from seeing through one's cultivation? I owe you. The Sword Spirit looked up and sighed. Chu Yang proudly withdrew from his sea of thoughts. He opened his eyes and saw Chu Fei Ling in front of him. Chu Fei Ling was examining him with a concerned look on his face. Brother, wake up. Brother, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Why did my brother suddenly become absent-minded? I can't wake him up. Chu Yang quivered and woke up. He awkwardly coughed a few times. Now that he heard these brothers calling him with such sincerity, Minister Chu felt uncomfortable all over. Even his crotch felt as if his balls were being pulled. I can't keep calling you like this. My lifespan will be shortened, father. Well, I'm thinking your real strength should be at Saber Emperor grade, right? Chu Yang smacked his lips and said, Why haven't you thought of breaking through to Saber Monarch grade? Breaking through to Saber Monarch grade? Chu Fei Ling shook his head and sighed, How can it be so easy to break through to Monarch grade? Brother, you don't know that breaking through from Emperor grade to Monarch grade isn't as simple as breaking through from Revered grade to King grade. It requires the world's essence energy, one's own cultivation, chance coincidences, and comprehension of the state of mind. None of these can be missing. Chu Yang nodded repeatedly and said sincerely, today, that, since you've acknowledged, that, little brother, know that I have a gift for you. Chu Yang didn't know what to say. How to address himself. How to address him. These are all problems. Moreover, they are big problems. Call him big brother? Call himself little brother? Chu Yang's legs cramped just thinking about it. Let alone calling him that? Yes, Minister Chu was used to being lawless. But he didn't dare to be careless in this matter. Motherfucker, this is no joke. Why do you need a gift? As your elder brother, I should be the one to give you a gift for our first meeting. What you said really makes me feel ashamed. Chu Fei Ling waved his hand. He felt strange in his heart. Why is this brother of mine suddenly stuttering? He said sincerely, Brother, good brother, what you've given me is enough for me to repay you with my whole life. I can help you break through to Monarch grade today. Chu Yang made up his mind and cut the Gordian knot. Chu Fei Ling was shocked. Chu Yang took out a pill. Chu Fei Ling didn't have time to see what it was before he stuffed it into his mouth. It melted in his mouth. He felt a lingering fragrance in his mouth. His limbs and bones felt extremely comfortable. At the same time, a hot current and a cold current alternated in his dantian. They spiraled and rushed up in joy. At the same time, his head suddenly became ice-cold. A sense of great meaning that he had never come into contact with suddenly rushed into his mind and surged in his mind. Chapter 427. At the same time, the meridians in his body suddenly opened up. Waves of tyrannical but warm spiritual energy of the world rushed into his body from every pore. It seemed as if a huge magnet had formed in his body, attracting the spiritual energy of the world to gather in his body. The impurities in his body were also discharged at this moment. Chu Fei Ling turned pale with fright. He hurriedly calmed himself down and sat down. He faced the sky with his palms and palms facing the sky. He tried his best to digest this sudden great fortune. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This brother is really impatient. He stuffed it into my mouth. However, he also knew that this was purely out of Chu Yang's good intentions. If he had given it to him, he wouldn't have accepted such a valuable gift. This was a heavenly treasure that had never been heard of before. The spiritual energy of the world and the medicinal efficacy rushed towards the bottleneck of the monarch level like stormy waves. The next moment, Chu Fei Ling felt that the unbreakable bottleneck of the monarch level that he had attacked many times had suddenly loosened. He didn't have time to be surprised when another stormy wave of energy rushed over. The bottleneck of the monarch level was suddenly opened. Then, the spirit chi in his meridians was like a tide breaking through a dam. Cheering and jumping, the spirit chi fiercely rushed out, unimpeded all the way. Breakthrough? Breakthrough like this? The breakthrough that I've been dreaming of came so suddenly and without any preparation? Then, Chu Fei Ling opened his eyes wide. The spiritual energy has become more and more turbulent after the breakthrough. It has become more and more powerful. It rushed through his meridians at lightning speed for 10 cycles. Then, it rushed towards the bottleneck of the second stage monarch level. Damn! Chu Fei Ling's face turned red with excitement. Isn't this too big of a surprise? The bottleneck of a second-grade monarch level expert couldn't withstand the impact of that surging spirit energy flow. Then, that spirit energy flow continued to spiral in his meridians. In fact, the medicinal efficacies were still violently rushing out of his danton, and formed a new power. Chu Fei Ling was shocked to the point of speechlessness. Third stage, fourth stage. It rushed to the peak of the fourth stage before it finally stopped. Then, his dantian became calm again. As if nothing had happened, Chu Fei Ling exhaled a long breath of foul air. He stood up and walked 2 steps. Then, he shook his arms and his vitality gushed out like a tide. The impurities that had been forced out of his body turned into powder in an instant. He shook his body and all the powder fell to the ground. He had broken through. Moreover, Chu Fei Ling clearly felt that this elixir not only allowed him to break through, but also allowed him to comprehend some of the meaning of the Great Tao. What was even more strange was that it actually completely improved his spiritual realm. He had advanced by an entire realm. In other words, his state of mind had originally been at the Saber Emperor grade. However, it was now at the Saber Monarch grade. What did this mean? Chu Fei Ling was so excited that his whole body was trembling. This means that I only need to accumulate martial power, and I can smoothly reach the level of Saber Monarch. Furthermore, there wouldn't be any bottlenecks in this process. He turned his head and fixed his gaze on Chu Yang. His eyes were full of excitement. Suddenly, he clasped his hands and bowed to the ground. He then sincerely said, "Brother, I can't thank you enough for your kindness. Big brother, I really can't say any words of thanks." Tears flickered in Chu Fei Ling's eyes as he said this. Yes, this kind of great kindness was something that couldn't be expressed in words. Words couldn't express the weight of this friendship at all. Chu Yang was startled. He looked at his father's buttocks as he bowed in front of him. His scalp almost exploded. He hurriedly dodged to one side and spoke incoherently. "This? What's this for? What's this for?" Chu Fei Ling straightened up and patted Chu Yang's shoulder. He took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the excitement in his heart. Then he solemnly said, "Good brother." Chu Yang grinned and laughed awkwardly. "Well, by the way, that was just food. It's not a gift." Chu Yang stretched out his hand and pulled out a saber and a sword from his black robe. "This is for you." The saber's body was slender, and it shone with a cold light. It fell on the ground, and half of it was inserted into the extremely hard ground that had been burned by the raging fire for thousands of years. It flickered under the sunlight, and reflected thousands of rays of cold light. The sword's body was delicate, and its shape was graceful. It was also inserted into the ground. It was obviously tailor-made for a woman. How can this be? Absolutely not. Chu Fei Ling repeatedly waved his hands. His face and neck were red. "If you continue like this, I'll leave. I don't have the face to stay here." His heart was moved to the point of no return. This sworn brother is really good. But, isn't this a little too enthusiastic? Why does he act like he's emptying his belongings and throwing out these treasures without any regard for his own life? Even if we're sworn brothers, you can't be so generous, right? Chu Fei Ling also wanted to take out something in return. But when he looked at each item that Chu Yang took out, he sadly discovered that he couldn't take out anything. It's too embarrassing. "These aren't for you. Why are you so anxious?" Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, "This saber is for you. As for that sword is for..." Chu Yang said for a long time, but didn't dare to say, "It's for sister-in-law." He actually wanted to say, "It's for my mother," but he didn't dare to. It's for madam." Chu Yang sweated. You're even giving it to her?" Chu Fei Ling sighed repeatedly. "Brother, you're too considerate." Then his face turned serious and his expression became resolute. "Then I can't accept it even more." "What? You're looking down on me?" Chu Yang simply threw a tantrum. "Either you take it away or don't acknowledge me as your. Minister Chu wanted to slap his own mouth a few times. "Damn it, it's too difficult to speak today. I used to have a glib tongue, and I didn't bend my back when I challenged the world. But today I can't even speak a complete sentence." "Okay." Chu Fei Ling sighed emotionally. Anyway, one doesn't feel itchy when one has too many lice, and one doesn't have to worry when one has too many debts. I already owe enough. So I'll just owe more. That's right. I don't know if this sword, that person, will Madam like it? Chu Yang obviously had a stuttering problem. You're still calling her Madam? Chu Fei Ling rebuked. That's your sister-in-law. Minister Chu's forehead was full of sweat. He wiped it again and again, and his little face turned green. Brother, are you feeling hot? Chu Fei Ling asked with concern. Yes, very hot. The weather is really hot. Really hot. Chu Yang was in a difficult situation. The matter is done. I should go back. Chu Fei Ling looked at Chu Yang with some reluctance. He was somewhat anxious to return home. His old father was still lying in bed. How could he not be anxious? Besides, he couldn't stay here any longer. In front of this little brother, Chu Fei Ling clearly felt that he was shorter by a head. Always accepting other people's gifts, this isn't a good thing. It's really strange. Usually, you can't see the world's rare treasures and divine weapons in the upper three heavens. But this time, you can actually bring back a lot of them. Wait. Chu Yang hurriedly stopped him. You haven't taken away the filial piety I showed to my mother. Why are you in such a hurry? Is there anything else? Chu Fei Ling looked at him in surprise. There's also this. Chu Yang took out a small bottle made of purple crystal from his bosom. Inside, there was a spinning elixir. This is a special elixir for treating heart colic. If you take it back, not only can it clear away the chronic disease, but it can also increase your cultivation. It's the same as the one you just ate. Cough, cough, I wanted to give you more, but I don't have much left. Chu Fei Ling was really shocked. Another one? But this one? I must have it. This concerns my wife's health. I must take it no matter what. But this elixir is so precious. Please tell Madam that there's no need to worry. She should relax. Her son will be found. Maybe her son is a young hero now. He's shining with heroism. Cough, cough. Chu Yang said shamelessly. Besides, children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. This is also his life's chance. You should know that one can only rise above others after suffering. Maybe her son will be able to go home by himself someday. I hope so. Chu Fei Ling heaved a deep sigh and said, if my family's little dog can be half as good as you, if it can be 10 or 20% as good as you, my wife and I won't have any regrets in our lives. Little dog? The corner of Minister Chu's mouth twitched. He must be very promising. Moreover, he must be handsome and confident. He must be handsome and elegant. He must be young and promising. He must have a demeanor and temperament. Young ladies will be dazzled the moment they see him. Young Master Chu's face was very red, but he still spoke very fluently. Young Master Chu kept hypnotizing himself in his heart as he spoke these words. I'm Tan Tan, I'm Tan Tan. Thank you for your auspicious words, brother. Chu Fei Ling carefully put away the purple crystal bottle in his bosom. He held a saber in one hand and a sword in the other. He also held the mysterious Yang Jade core and 2 incomplete heavy elixirs in his bosom. He was ready to return home from a rewarding journey. Hold on. Chu Yang remembered. You must remember to keep these things a secret. Don't leak them out. I know this. Chu Fei Ling cleverly smiled. Wouldn't my brother be in endless trouble if someone were to find out about this? Don't worry. Only you and I will know about this matter. That's good. That's good. Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief. Brother, I'm going back now. Chu Fei Ling tightly grasped Chu Yang's hand and shook it vigorously. You must not forget your brother. You must come to the Chu clan if you go to the upper 3 heavens. That's for sure, for sure. Chu Yang nodded repeatedly. Chu Yang wanted to shake his head whenever he heard the words brother and elder. There's also this pill. It can shield your aura after you take it. So, people won't be able to see your cultivation. Chu Yang looked at Chu Fei Ling as he walked away. Chu Yang was reluctant to part with him. Chapter 428. Chu Yang didn't know whether to cry or laugh. He threw himself on the ground and pounded the ground with his hands. Oh my God! Oh my God! You're finally gone. I'm dying of suffocation. What is this, big brother? Chu Yang cried, laughed, and screamed for a long time. He vented his emotions hysterically for a while. Then he got up and looked at the surrounding scenery. He felt strange and lost. He suddenly felt empty in his heart. It seemed that he was missing something, but also seemed to have gained something. In short, his mood was extremely strange. After a long time, he sat up. He supported his chin with his hands and was lost in thought. His mind was in a mess. It seemed that thousands of things were running through his mind at the same time. But he didn't have any specific thoughts. You're finally complete, the sword spirit in his mind sighed. Congratulations, Tribulation Sword Master. Your inner demons are gone. What's left is only some obsession. Complete. Chu Yang was stunned. He asked subconsciously. That's right. Being abandoned by your parents has always been your inner demon. Although you've never said it, but this deep hatred has always been in your heart. Perhaps you haven't realized it yourself, but every time you see someone else in front of your parents, you'll always feel jealous. So, you're jealous of everyone. The sword spirit said ruthlessly, you didn't accept Wu Qian for this reason. This hatred can only be resolved by your parents. No one else can resolve it for you. If you keep this hatred, your inner demons will burn you to ashes when you reach the saint level and become a supreme martial artist. The sword spirit sighed in relief and said, but even I didn't expect that your inner demons would be resolved so early this time. Well, sword spirit, do you think it's right for me to not acknowledge them now? Chu Yang had always been brooding. His parents had suffered for 18 years because of him. Even 10,000 heavy pills couldn't heal the pain in his mother's heart for the past 18 years. Chu Yang felt sad when he thought about their lives for the past 18 years. So, he was much luckier than his parents. Although he was an orphan, he had a master. Moreover, he had always been full of hatred for this matter. There was no doubt that the days full of hatred were much better than the days full of despair filled with love. That was because his mother's heart had been torn apart and bleeding for the past 18 years. How could an ordinary person endure that kind of pain? This is absolutely right. The sword spirit said with infinite certainty, don't think that you're unfilial because you didn't acknowledge your parents. In fact, you'll be the greatest unfilial if you acknowledge them now. Filial. Unfilial. Chu Yang muttered. Tribulation Sword Master. The entire celestial layer is a responsibility that you cannot abandon. Even if you don't want to, fate will push you to complete it. The sword spirit said slowly, you don't have the ability to protect your family right now. Even if you don't do anything after you return to your family, there will be people who will investigate the origins of the Chu family's first young master. You're a disciple of Beyond the Heavens sect. You're an orphan, and you've transformed into king of Hell Chu. Then, you've become a sword king from an ordinary martial artist within a year and a half. Everything will be dug up. When the time comes, when the great dominating clans look for the Calamity Sword Master, the first person they suspect will be you. The sword spirit said, even if they can't be sure that you are the master of Calamity Sword, they would rather kill 10,000 people than miss a single person. Because the Calamity Sword Master has too much influence on them. They definitely wouldn't mind destroying an innocent Chu family. Sword Spirit sighed softly, you haven't come into contact with the big clans. So, you still don't know how formidable and huge your opponents are. I only want to ask you this. Diwu Qingro is only a person sent by the Zhuge clan of the big clans. Is he difficult to deal with? Very difficult to deal with. Chu Yang nodded and admitted. His mood also became heavy. Diwu Qingrou's fierceness can't be described with the word difficult. So, let's find the fourth fragment as soon as possible. Sword Spirit sighed and said, the only way is to find the fourth fragment of the Calamity Sword and improve your strength as soon as possible. Then, you can hide from the heavenly secrets. Let's take it one step at a time. Chu Yang pondered and said slowly, I want to know what will happen if I acknowledge my ancestors and return to the clan, and give up the responsibility of being the Calamity Sword Master? You can't give it up. The consequence of that would be, the great clans would destroy the Chu clan and kill all your family members. You would be forced to walk the path of the Calamity Swordmaster in order to take revenge. These are two paths. You can choose one. The sword spirit sneered. Chu Yang was stunned for a while. Then he spat and said, "Fuck. I'll just hand over the Calamity Sword. I won't be the Calamity Sword Master anymore, okay? You think I'll hand it over just because you said so?" Sword Spirit snorted mockingly, "Why are you so capable? If you really do that, the Chu family will still have no way to survive. You should still be the Calamity Sword Master. Unless you die again." Chu Yang's hair stood on end. He hung his head and said dejectedly, "Forget it. I won't acknowledge it first. The key is strength." Sword Spirit said lightly, "If you have strength, you can acknowledge it. If you don't, you can hold it in. Hold it in for the time being, Lord Sword Master." Chu Yang was furious. He glared and said, "If not, I'll beat you up. If not for the fact that you can't beat me, you'll beat me up." Sword Spirit laughed weirdly. Chu Yang had given away so many treasures today. Sword Spirit was very distressed. How could he not take advantage of this opportunity to hit him when he was down? Chu Yang coldly snorted. He patted his buttocks and stood up. He suddenly felt very good for some reason. He ignored Sword Spirit and walked forward in big strides. He was as light as a feather, as if he wanted to ride the clouds. He couldn't help but sing loudly as he walked. It was the song Jianghu Road. "This journey, I won't look back from mountains of knives and seas of fire. This journey, I'll die on the Jianghu Road. This journey, I'll laugh proudly at the world from now on. This journey, I'll go straight to the clouds without looking back. This journey, I'll defy the heavens from now on. This journey, I'll make fate reincarnate. This journey, I'll accompany you to dance and laugh at the world of mortals. This journey, I'll overturn the heavens." Chu Yang sang loudly all the way. He was like a gust of wind blowing across the ground. He saw a dense forest in front of him. Chu Yang sang excitedly and rushed into it. Suddenly, a broken gong-like voice cursed, "Oh, dog ant. Which pervert is that howling? Motherfucker." He disturbed Second Master Ji's mood of taking a dump. He must be courting death. Chu Yang was startled. Then, a meaningful smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. Then he suddenly flew into a rage. "Oh, dog ant. Motherfucker." Second Master Ji was so depressed about snatching his wife that a punching bag was sent over. A thin guy came out of the forest with a strange cry. He was holding his pants while tying his belt. His nostrils were raised to the sky as he walked out of the forest. He stood in the middle of the road in an imposing manner. Then he dragged out a long cry, "Oh, which be asterisk is it?" Chu Yang snorted and slowly walked over. He put on a fake smile and said, "Oh my, isn't this Second Master Ji? Second Master Ji, you're really overbearing." "Oh, of course, of course. Second Master Ji has always been famous in these 3 days." GMO said disdainfully with his nose up in the air. Then he suddenly felt that something was wrong. It seemed that this voice was a little familiar. He hurriedly opened his eyes and lowered his head to look. Then he suddenly screamed as if he had seen a ghost. His legs left the ground, and he spasmed as if he had been electrocuted. "My mother, why is it you?" "It's me. What's wrong?" Chu Yang crossed his arms and sneered sinisterly, "Second Master Ji, are you going to blame me for disturbing your bowel movements?" "Ayaya, ayaya." Jimo's face suddenly turned bitter. It was so bitter that juice could drip out of it. Even his nose and eyes were squeezed together. Then he rolled his eyes and put on a flattering smile on his face. Then he ran over while jolting his buttocks. He nodded and bowed. Then he said flatteringly, "Oh my. I was wondering who it was. Your singing is so beautiful and moving. It's like the heavenly music lingering in the heavens. It's rare to hear such a thing in this world. But I'm really intoxicated. I'm really intoxicated." He shook his head and made a circle in an intoxicated manner. Then he continued to flatter, I was so shocked that I hurriedly came out to greet this almighty person. I really didn't expect this. GMO immediately put on an extremely shocked and admiring expression. Then he said, I'm so shocked at this moment. So, it's my big brother. My dear big brother. Oh, big brother Chu, I really admire you. I admire you so much that I prostrate myself on all fours. My admiration for you is like a torrential river. Then he put on a stern face and pretended to be unhappy, but, big brother, you're too much. You actually hid your talent to such an extent. If I didn't happen to hear it, who would be so lucky to hear such a beautiful, deep, manly and heroic singing voice again? Then he rubbed his hands and ran over. He was extremely enthusiastic. Big brother? Oh, I missed you so much. Big brother, my dear big brother. Chu Yang's whole body was covered with goosebumps. He instantly shivered and his thighs started to spasm. He couldn't help but send a flying kick over. In the blink of an eye, Second Master Ji had already turned around and stuck out his but with a flattering look on his face. Big brother, please calm down. Here, I just wiped my butt. It's very clean. Hee hee. Chu Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He put down his foot. Forget it, I forgive you. Motherfucker, you disgusted me to death. GMO cheered and rushed over. He hugged Chu Yang's neck and cheered, Wah! Big brother, you're finally here. And, you've come at such a crucial moment. Right at the crucial moment when I'm about to snatch my wife. This is really timely. Well, dog ant. Chapter 429. Let go. Chu Yang angrily threw him aside and said, What's going on? Heh. GMO immediately let go of his hands around his neck, but immediately hugged his arm affectionately. His face was full of excitement. Obviously, he hadn't woken up from the pleasant surprise of being reunited after a long time. He giggled foolishly for a while before coming back to his senses. Boss, when did you come? I just arrived, not more than 4 or 5 days ago. Chu Yang glared at him. Chu Yang awkwardly tried to pull his arm away, but this guy was hugging him so tightly that he couldn't pull it out. GMO hugged Chu Yang's arm like this, raised his face, and led Chu Yang inside with a silly smile. Step by step, Chu Yang was full of energy. You haven't said it yet? Chu Yang struggled with all his might, and finally pulled his arm out. Motherfucker, his skin had been rubbed red. What do you mean by snatching a wife? I heard that you snatched Gao Xing's wife? Can't be. Yes. GMO suddenly woke up as if from a dream, and remembered this matter. He jumped in front of Chu Yang, and raised his hands and shouted, Oh, dog ant. Boss, I found my own spring. Chu Yang's face darkened. He couldn't bear to look at this guy's current appearance. He looked like a monkey in heat. Found your spring? Chu Yang thought of Huyin Alba's tall and sturdy appearance, and then looked at GMO who was jumping up and down in front of him. He compared the size of the two in his mind, and couldn't help but feel dizzy. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. That Huyin, miss? GMO excitedly clapped his hands, and made a loud, clap sound. He was beaming with joy, and his eyes were full of longing. Boss, I remember that time you said that whenever you see a girl you love, your heart will beat faster, and you will feel that the cold wind is intoxicating, the sun is bright, the world is colorful, and the flowers are more fragrant. I am, he let out a happy sigh. Ever since I met her, I've truly understood that love still exists in this world of mortals. This is such a sacred word. My love. My spring. Chu Yang couldn't bear it anymore. So, he kicked this guy's ass and sent him flying. Get lost. Don't disgust me. GMO let out a strange cry as he was sent flying. He then prostrated himself on the ground like a big horse. But he quickly got up and ran back with a drooling face. He then complained, Big brother, you can't dispel my stubborn pursuit of love. This is inhumane. Chu Yang looked up to the sky and sighed. Even if you use violence to obstruct me, I will still persevere. For the sake of my love, I will fight to the end. Second Master Ji clenched his fists and made a solemn vow. Sigh. Chu Yang shook his head weakly. That Miss Hun? How is she? Ji Mo's eyes brightened when he heard the words Miss Huyen. His saliva almost dripped out of his mouth. Then he spoke in a voice that was almost roaring, Beautiful! How beautiful! Every word he spoke caused his body to tremble violently. Chu Yang recalled again in his mind. Then he hung his head weakly. Where is she beautiful? Everywhere is beautiful. Everywhere is beautiful. GMO opened his eyes wide and gasped for breath. Then he narrowed his eyes. His face was full of fascination. Obviously, he was thinking of Miss Huyen, who he yearned for day and night. Big brother? You don't know. GMO narrowed his eyes and used a dreamy tone. He gestured with his hands. First, he spread his fingers and made two bowl-like shapes. Then, he placed them on his chest. This place is so big. Then, her two hands slid down from her chest to her buttocks in a gentle manner. She twisted her waist like a snake while caressing both sides of her buttocks. It's so round here. Chu Yang looked at him with disgust. He felt that this guy's actions were inconceivable. If it weren't for his strong willpower, he would have vomited a long time ago. Dimo pretended to be intoxicated. Also, I feel so safe when I'm with her. Chu Yang weakly shook his head and retched. Then he turned around and walked away. Big brother Chu, why are you going? GMO hastily jumped in front of him and blocked his path. He looked at him with hidden bitterness. This reaction of yours hurts a person like me who is immersed in the river of love. Chu Yang closed his eyes and said in a tangled manner, Second Master Ji, you know that I've been hurt by you since a long time ago, when you made your first expression and shouted, Spring, I'll change. GMO resolutely raised his hand. I'll change, okay? Chu Yang sighed and walked inside. What's going on? Tell me. If you continue to be so unruly, be careful that I don't join forces with the other brothers to beat you to death. Don't. GMO panicked. He eagerly followed Chu Yang and begged for mercy. I haven't seen you for a long time. Don't mention how excited I am when I see you. Look at me, big brother. King level. Then he curled his arms and bulged his muscles. He looked at Chu Yang with a beaming face and winked flirtatiously. Chu Yang was completely helpless. Motherfucker, why did I become sworn brothers with such a person? I've really met the wrong person. Be serious. Chu Yang couldn't bear it anymore and shouted loudly. The matter is... GMO immediately followed Chu Yang's advice and told him the story of his romance. It turned out that after GMO and Jizhu had led the troops to Zhonglan battlefront, Grand Duke Jizhu had led the troops to fight a few battles. After that, he had occupied a favorable position and set up camp. He had begun to recuperate. GMO looked at his elder brother drinking wine every day. He was drunk and slept. He was helpless when he woke up. Although GMO was also very lazy, he was still more diligent than his elder brother. Besides, he couldn't stand the disgust of facing Jizhu every day. So, he volunteered to go out to hunt spirit beasts and hone his martial skills. Jizhu had drunk too much at that time. He said in a daze, then get lost. So, GMO got lost. Second Master Ji had gone out alone. And he had made a name for himself in Zhonglan battlefront. But he had come across Huyen Albua's pink core when he had hunted a spirit beast not long ago. The two sides had quarreled over the spirit beast. So they had fought. Second Master Ji had been besieged by hundreds of beautiful women. And he had been defeated and captured. GMO had looked up at Chu Yang in embarrassment when he had said this. He then smiled in shame. Big brother, I've lost face for you. I was captured by a group of women. But those women were really tough. Motherfucker, they were all good men. Motherfucker. Continue. Chu Yang's face had darkened. He frowned and shouted. GMO repeatedly promised. He wiped his sweat. Then he continued to speak. Huyen Albua didn't like Second Master Ji's lazy appearance after he had been captured. So, she wanted to teach him a lesson. She didn't want to do anything to him. She only wanted to beat him up and let him go. But Second Master Ji was heroic and unyielding. He didn't stop cursing for a day and a night. All the women of the Huyen clan, even the hens, had met with bad luck. Huyen Aobo was tall and sturdy. She looked even more manly than a man. But she was still an unmarried maiden. So, she was the real deal, therefore she burst into anger. She rushed to the place where GMO was being held, and beat him up ruthlessly. However, Second Master Ji had become more and more energetic. He had been roaring nonstop. He had been beaten black and blue all over his body. But he hadn't shown any mercy. Miss Huyen was also panting because of exhaustion. But Second Master Ji suddenly begged for mercy at this time. He even offered a condition: "I'm thirsty. I won't curse as long as you give me enough water to drink." Chu Yang smiled when he heard this. I wouldn't have given him any water if it were me. However, Huyen Aobo also felt very apologetic for beating the dignified second master of the Ji clan. So, she saw that GMO had the tendency to admit defeat. So, she wanted to take advantage of this situation to get off the donkey. So, she gave him some water to drink. She didn't expect that after GMO drank some water to moisten his throat, he would start cursing even more fiercely. His throat that had just been moistened was extremely loud and clear. Huyen Aobo thought that she was as intelligent as a man. But she was tricked by this guy. So, she became angry out of humiliation. So, she tortured GMO even more. But Second Master Ji didn't care what she did. "I'll curse you as long as you don't cut my tongue. I'll hit you if you let me go." However, GMO was the second master of the Ji clan. Huyen Aobo didn't dare to kill him. So, she could only beat him viciously. But the more she beat him, the fiercer GMO cursed. The two of them were actually wasting time. In the end, Huyen Aobo still didn't let him go. But she admired this man's stubbornness to the point of prostrating herself in admiration. How many of these pampered and spoiled sons are like GMO? Her fiancé, Gao Sheng, who had been engaged to her since childhood, didn't even dare to take responsibility. He directly ran away. So, the two parties involved were also confused. So, they suddenly stopped beating and cursing. Then, Huyen Aobo began to treat GMO's injuries. GMO felt dizzy. He didn't care if others beat or cursed him. But when others treated him well, he felt numb. He felt dizzy and enjoyed the beauty's grace for a few days. Then, the two of them unexpectedly fell in love with each other. That day, Second Master Ji was enjoying the great beauty Huyen's service. He couldn't help but feel dizzy and said, "It's so good. Whoever marries you in the future will be really lucky. You're also capable and good-looking. Moreover, you give people a sense of security." He didn't expect that Miss Huyen would unexpectedly reply, "Do you want this kind of luck?" Then GMO said, "I couldn't ask for more." After saying that, the two of them were startled at the same time. They thought at the same time, "Damn, this matter is feasible." Then, Miss Huyen talked about her engagement with Gao Sheng. After Second Master Ji heard it, he waved his hand heroically and said, "Damn it. Don't worry. I'll do him. You just wait to be my wife." As a result, Second Master Ji raised his voice and shouted, "There's trouble and it's big trouble." Chapter 430. Young Master Gao Sheng of the Gao clan had always been dissatisfied with this marriage. In fact, he didn't hesitate to rebel against his clan and went to the lower three heavens to hang out with Diwu Qing Ro. He didn't want to accept that he had such a fiancé. GMO had taken a fancy to Huyen Aobo. Moreover, both of them were happy with each other. So, Gao Sheng should have felt relieved from a heavy burden. At least, he should have unloaded a heavy burden. However, the fact was very wrong. It was one thing to look down on one's own fiancé. It was another thing to not want her. But it was unacceptable to have someone else snatch her away from him. Especially, this marriage involved the alliance between the Huyen clan and the Gao clan. The alliance would have ceased to exist if this marriage failed. Huyen Aobo would have followed GMO. So, the Huyen clan would have had to form an alliance with the Ji clan. Moreover, the Gao clan and the Ji clan had never seen eye to eye. So, wouldn't this create two powerful enemies? Moreover, young Master Gao couldn't afford to lose face. So, the entire lower three heavens was talking about this. This is too awesome. Second Master GMO has snatched Gao Xing's fiancée. It's Miss Albua of the Huyan clan? What kind of fucking rumor is this? The 8 characters haven't been set yet. Moreover, she's only his fiancée. But, young Master Gao's head has been covered in green grease from time to time. His clan is in danger, and his reputation is in danger. Moreover, this is a great humiliation. This is unbearable. Gao Xing became angry. He shook his head and issued a statement. I don't want her. But she's still my fiancée in name. What's the matter with you, GMO? How can you let go of the humiliation you've inflicted on me? You must clarify the facts in front of the heroes of the world. You must apologize to me. Moreover, your G clan must compensate me for the damage to my reputation. GMO obviously wouldn't agree. So, both sides were in a deadlock. But, don't forget that there were many onlookers. Most of the onlookers wished for the world to be in chaos. Therefore, booing sounds came from everywhere. Everyone fanned the flames, and said that these two people were going to have a decisive battle. However, an extremely crucial person appeared at the most critical moment. This person had reversed the entire situation. He was a person who wished for the world to be in chaos. Luo Kadi. This second young master Luo publicly stood out to support GMO. Moreover, one day after getting drunk he loudly shouted in a restaurant, "What? This Gao Xing really doesn't know how to appreciate favors. GMO taking a fancy to your wife is giving you face." This bastard was still unwilling to give up. He was simply asking for a beating. If he dared to raise any more unrealistic delusions, Big Brother would be the first to stand up and slap him in the mouth. No matter what, they had to respond to GMO's decision to pursue pure love. So, they did not hesitate to beat Gao Xing until he became a pig's head. Luo Kudi's words caused the entire Jianghu to explode. Luo Kudi was the newly promoted king-level expert wolfsword. Moreover, his influence in the Luo clan had also risen along with his selection as one of the top 10 experts of the younger generation. His words proved that the Luo clan supported the Ji clan. Not only was the Gao clan furious, but even the Luo clan's people were also furious. This was clearly not the Luo clan's decision. The family hadn't even come up with a decision yet, but second young Master Luo had already chosen a side on behalf of the family. Then, Meng Luo Gong of the Meng family stood up to support Gao Xing. But then, Dong clan's Dong Wushang made a strong appearance. He waved his dark saber, and made his position clear to the world. We support GMO. Li clan's Li Xiong too had always been hot-tempered. He hated evil as if they were his personal enemies. He heard that Gao Xing's wife had been snatched away. Moreover, the snatcher was extremely arrogant. So, he became hot-headed and confronted Dong Wushang. Therefore, there were already large clans involved in this matter. Gu Du Xing appeared at the critical moment like a dark horse. He coldly questioned the world, "Who dares to snatch my brother's wife?" Gao Xing's wife was snatched away because he was a good-for-nothing. Why do you want to get involved? The three heavens boiled over. Gu Du Xing was the representative of the younger generation. So, his old rival Tu Qianhao naturally joined the Li clan and Gao clan's camp without any hesitation. He threw out a sentence with a clear stance, "I will deal with Gu Du Xing." The three heavens thoroughly boiled over. The 8 great clans had agreed that the two sides would decide the ownership of the beauty on Mt Dingjun of the Tsanglan battlefront on a certain day. The 8 great clans would each send out 2 people to fight with the other side. The last battle would be GMO against Gao Xing. This was originally a drama of 2 aristocratic clans fighting for affection. But it unexpectedly swept over the entire 3 heavens, because Duke Ao Xie Yun, Duke Xie Dan Xiong, Duke O Du Shao, Duke Missouri Tian, and Duke Yun weren't willing to stay silent. So they all joined in. Anyway, there was nothing to do in the 3 heavens. The 3 stars divine clan had also retreated for the time being. So, how could these men be willing to stay silent if they didn't stir up some trouble? However, These 4 men had remained silent. Moreover, they had joined forces to set up a big gambling house. They were betting on who would win between GMO and Gao Sheng. They could place a bet as long as they were interested. It didn't matter how big the bet was. The subordinates of the Dark Bamboo also took advantage of this opportunity to set up an underground betting house. Duke Yu oversaw the heroes of the world with disdain. As a result, the 3 days were in an uproar. There was still half a month left until the day of the war. The heroes of the world would converge on Mt Dingjun at that time. It would be incomparably lively. Moreover, the Black Devil clan, a clan of assassins, had also begun to move out. Many assassination targets would appear here. After all, they were all money. GMO and his brother had already begun to set out for that place. They had arrived near the Raging Fire Mountain range on the 2nd day of their journey. Duke GMO had a sudden urge to go to the toilet. So, he found a village and went inside to relieve himself. But he bumped into Chu Yang when he came out. GMO's narration of the matter had come to an end. Chu Yang's entire body twitched as he listened. His stomach cramped. Is this even possible? You guys agreed to meet there? Chu Yang's heart warmed up. He hadn't expected that his brothers would participate in this farce. Everyone is heading towards Mt Dingjun. We've agreed to meet at the foot of Mt Dingjun. However, we'll surely bump into a few people along the way. They'll either be friends or enemies. GMO laughed in a carefree manner. Well, is there any news about Ray Budong? Chu Yang asked. I heard that a spirit beast has appeared in the ice and snow wilderness in the far north. Many 3 Heavens King level and Emperor level experts have already lost their lives to this spirit beast. The 3 Stars Divine clan has temporarily retreated. So, this spirit beast has become the biggest threat. Stealing God, Thieving Ghost, and the others have already rushed there. Many other people are also rushing there. We've gathered our forces this time because of this reason. So, we'll all go there together after this matter is over. GMO's eyes were somewhat fascinated. Big brother, it's a spirit beast. It'll be very cool if we can catch it and use it as a special guest. Yes, it'll be very cool. It'll turn around and swallow you whole. Chu Yang nodded. However, he was thinking about the 12 influential figures of his previous life: Black Devil, Dark Bamboo, Lone Guest, Poison Spirit, Tianji, Li Xiong Tu, Black Saber, Qian Hao, Xie Gong, Meng Luo, Viburnum Flower, Tian Buru. Now, there were 12 of them. Moreover, they were also involved in this matter. Only 3 mysterious figures had been assassinated: Young Black Devil, the representative of Black Devil, Jun Shizhu, the leader of Dark Bamboo, and Tian Buru. It's really a grand occasion. The 2 men chatted as they caught up with the G Clan's team. Then, Chu Yang discovered that there was a carriage in the G Clan's team. It was being pulled by 8 fine horses and was moving forward steadily. My elder brother is inside, cough cough. My elder brother doesn't want to walk. GMO introduced the carriage in a somewhat embarrassed manner. At this moment, a lazy voice came out of the carriage. Second Master G, you've come back from taking a dump? Elder brother, we have a distinguished guest. GMO's face darkened. A rustling sound came out of the carriage. Then, the curtain of the carriage was lifted. GMO vigorously jumped to the side at lightning speed. However, Chu Yang didn't know that. He was still waiting for GMO to introduce him. But, the carriage's curtain was lifted, and a strong smell of feet suddenly blew over. Chu Yang choked, and his stomach started to churn. In fact, he almost vomited. His facial features became distorted. GMO laughed on one side. He took pleasure in Chu Yang's misfortune. Then, he saw 2 big and smelly feet stretch out a hand. Then, Grand Duke Jizhu appeared outside the carriage. His hair looked like a chicken's nest. His lapel was half open, and a tuft of black hair was exposed on his chest. His trousers were rolled up, and his 2 hairy legs were exposed. Then, he got down from the carriage. This is... Jizhu looked at Chu Yang and blinked. He felt that something was wrong. So, he stretched out his hand, and pulled off a piece of booger from the corner of his eye. This is my big brother. GMO jumped up, and waved his hand to command, You guys, get out of the way, get out of the way. Don't blow the smell here, I am Chu Yang. Chu Yang reluctantly revealed a smile. Hello. Ayaya. Ji Zhu enthusiastically held Chu Yang's hand and shook it repeatedly, the famous brother Chu. Ayaya. Chu Yang was speechless. He felt that his palm was slippery and sticky. Hemo looked at his big brother speechlessly. Big brother, when did I tell you? I clearly didn't say it. So what if you didn't say it? Ji Zhu said casually, since I am your big brother, I will be famous tomorrow. Chu Yang lowered his head speechlessly. Ji Zhu chatted for a while and quickly slipped back into the carriage. The wind outside is strong, and I need to take care of my skin. The carriage's curtain was closed. Chu Yang hadn't turned around yet. He felt that there was still a smell lingering around him. He looked around but didn't find it. He raised his hands and smelled them. Suddenly, he turned his head and retched. His hands were full of the smell of feet. My big brother's habit? GMO said embarrassedly, he likes to scratch his feet. Chu Yang retched again. He lifted his foot and kicked this bastard to the side. Then he snatched a water bag and fiercely scrubbed it a few times. He looked at the carriage with hatred. GMO's big brother is really a genius. Damn it. Hemo clan, backyard, Mo Qingwu went back to her room. She put a few gold coins into her pocket. Then she tilted her head and thought for a while. Then she untied the bow on her head and put it in her bosom. Then she thought for a while. Then she took off her red clothes and changed into a green one. Chapter 431. Leave the clan. This was Mo Qingwu's persistent wish for more than a year. Especially after the marriage proposal a few days ago, Mo Qingwu had completely lost hope in her clan. She couldn't be protected here. She could only be used as a tool. Over the past year, Mo Qingwu had been naively hoping that her father would change his mind and that her clan would be kinder to her. After all, it wasn't my fault that my 3-in meridian was destroyed. I was the victim. I didn't want the clan to nurture me like before, but please at least treat me as a child of the clan. Even when the clan was nurturing me, I didn't offend anyone. I greeted everyone with a smile. Everyone praised me for being obedient. Why are they ignoring me now? She had been hoping for a year, but all she got was despair. The marriage proposal of the Meng clan had extinguished the last bit of light in Mo Qingwu's heart. She wanted to leave here. Leave here and go to Zhonglan battlefront. Brother Chu Yang's brothers are all there. I just need to find one. I will wait for Brother Chu Yang there, but I have never gone out by myself. This route needs to be carefully planned. Mo Qingwu spent a few days asking around. No matter what was in the house, she wouldn't take it away. First, it belonged to the Mo clan. She didn't want to take it away. Second, if she took it away, she was afraid that she would be discovered immediately. Even her most beloved scabbard was left at home. Everyone in the Mo clan knew that this was Mo Qingwu's most beloved treasure. As long as the scabbard was still there, Mo Qingwu wouldn't disappear. She thought for a long time and tried her best to think thoroughly. Regarding this matter, she had been pondering in her little heart. She didn't discuss it with anyone. She took one last look at the room and the scabbard on the pillow. Then, she walked out without any reluctance. Mother, I want to go out and play. Mo Qingwu looked at Madame Mo. These days have been so boring. Good. I will immediately send someone to accompany you. Madame Mo was pleasantly surprised. Her daughter had been more and more depressed and silent these days. She was also worried. Now that she finally proposed to go out and play, she could take it as a distraction. At least her mood would be better. There's no need for that. I'll just fly a kite in the nearby grassland. Then I want to go to the Wild Goose River to look at the river water and play with the water. While I'm at it, I want to see if I can catch any fish. Mo Qingwu pretended to be light-hearted and smiled. Naughty, Madame Mo said angrily. You are already a big girl, yet you still want to play in the water and catch fish. She muttered to herself irresolutely for a moment before saying, All right. Go, don't forget to come back early. It's okay. I have a few copper coins with me. I can still buy some things. Mo Qingwu took out a dozen copper coins and shook them. Ha, go ahead. Madame Mo did not take it to heart. Mother, your daughter will leave now. Mo Qingwu looked at her mother and said softly. It never occurred to Madame Mo that the words mother, I'm leaving meant that her daughter was saying goodbye to her for a long time. She only stroked her daughter's hair and said sadly, go and relax. Xiao, some things can't be forced. You have to understand the family. Mo Qingwu lowered her head. No one could see that the last bit of light in her eyes was quietly extinguished. Understand the family? You mean sacrificing me, right? I understand the family, but what should I do? She lowered her head and thought for a moment before walking out. Behind her, Madame Mo sighed softly. It was because of her poor aptitude that she was betrothed at an early age. She thought that her daughter was born with 3 meridians and would have a happy life. She did not expect that her daughter would have the same fate as her. Mo Qingwu walked out of the small courtyard briskly. She raised her small face and greeted everyone she saw. She smiled sweetly and walked out. She walked out of the Mo clan's gate. When she walked out of the gate, she even hugged the 2 stone lions at the gate for a while. She jumped on the lion's head and tiptoed to look at the house. The guards at the gate smiled faintly. Miss is already 11 years old and tall, but she is still so naughty. Let's go. Mo Qingwu waved her hand. Under the guard's smile, she turned her head and ran away briskly. The moment she turned her head, Mo Qingwu's eyes were a little red. She bit her lips hard, trying her best not to cry. Then she raised her head and looked at the morning sun that had just risen. The sunlight shone on her hair, turning it into a light golden color. She walked briskly all the way to the grassland behind the Mo clan's residence. Mo Qingwu held her chin and looked at a few 8-year-old children playing on the grassland for a while. Then she walked all the way to the east and walked to the Wild Goose River. She leaned on the river and looked at something for a while. No one saw that she had smeared something on her face at this moment. Her originally elegant and cute little face suddenly turned black. She saw a small boat coming from afar. There were a few people standing at the bow of the boat, looking at the scenery on both sides of the river with their hands behind their backs. Mo Qingwu then jumped down and jumped onto the riverbed. She first looked at the people on the boat and felt a little relieved. Then she waved her hand vigorously. The boat stopped and an old man walked out. He had a square face and big ears. His hair and beard were all white. He looked at her with amazement. Little girl, I want to go home. Mo Qingwu's little mouth flattened and her eyes were red. My house is right there. Just follow the river. Grandpa, can you give me a ride? I'll give you money. As she spoke, she took out a pitiful amount of silver and looked at the old man pitifully. Mo Qingwu knew that one shouldn't show off one's wealth. Poor little girl, did you get separated from your family? The old man sighed sympathetically. Come on up, a little girl like you doesn't need silver. Thank you, Grandpa. Mo Qingwu obediently bowed and briskly boarded the boat. She hid her small body in the cabin. My home is in Liuhe town, which is 200 or more than 100 kilometers below us. Mo Qingwu blinked her eyes and innocently said, Daddy was doing business, so I followed him out to play. However, I followed a monkey and couldn't find Daddy in the end. Liuhe town? The old man was obviously a very kind old man. Yes, this was also the reason why Mo Qingwu dared to board the boat. Next time, don't run around. There are so many bad people. Poor little girl. The old man sighed and patted Mo Qingwu's head. Give the little girl some food. Are you hungry? Yes. She nodded timidly. The old man was just an ordinary businessman and didn't take this matter seriously. Every time before Mo Qingwu ate or drank, her little hand would intentionally or unintentionally reach into the bowl. On her finger, there was a thin and ordinary-looking ring, the poison-testing ring. Although she was young, she was extremely careful. If she fell into someone else's trap, she would never see Brother Chu Yang again. Mo Qingwu secretly looked at the Mo clan's planes which were getting farther and farther away from her cabin. Her eyes were fixed and she bit her lips. Home used to be the place she was most attached to. But now, she had to leave. Mo Qingwu would no longer exist in the Mo clan. Mother, take care. When they arrived at Liuhe town, Mo Qingwu politely bid farewell to the old man and went ashore. She disappeared into a willow forest with a wave of her hand. The old man watched her go with a reluctant look on his face. In this short period of time together, he was already full of love for this well-behaved little girl. Sir, this young lady has been very vigilant this whole journey. The guard walked behind him and reminded him, don't worry about it. A little girl is outside, so it's normal to be vigilant. The old man stroked his beard disapprovingly and said with a smile, if only this old man had such a granddaughter. He let out a long sigh as he spoke. Mo Qingwu found the market in Liuhe town and bought a set of gray men's clothing. Then she changed out of her clothes, put on a hat, and dyed her face a bronze color. Her thin and weak body that had not yet started to develop instantly turned into a thin and ordinary-looking man. Then she asked around and found a mule and horse company. She spent 10 taels of silver to hire a carriage. She ate and lived in the carriage and headed east. 3 days later, Mo Qingwu got down from the carriage and bought a horse to pull the carriage with a piece of gold. She mounted the horse and galloped away. Her small figure slowly disappeared into the horizon. At this moment, she was already more than 1,000 miles away from the Mo clan. She was very careful along the way. She had thought about everything hundreds and thousands of times in her heart. Unexpectedly, she was scared but not in danger. However, from now on, she had to travel thousands of miles to the Zhonglan battlefront. She was at a loss on this long journey. She did not know where her future lay. She also did not know how many dangers a child like her would encounter on this journey. Spirit beasts, wild beasts, villains, robbers, thieves. She only knew that she had to go to the Zhonglan battlefront. That was her only hope. In her previous life, Mo Qingwu also ran away from home because she was forced to marry. In this life, she still walked on the same path. However, in this life, she ran away 2 years earlier than in her previous life. There was another difference. In her previous life, she did not even have the goal of going to the Zhonglan battlefront. After leaving the clan, she found a place to hide. Moreover, her heart was filled with despair. But in this life, at least she had hope and a goal in her heart. At this time, the Mo clan was already in chaos. Mo Qingwu had disappeared. She did not return that night. Madame Mo felt strange. Together with Mo Xingchen, she went to Mo Qingwu's small courtyard to check. When they opened the door, they saw that the room was in order. When they opened the bedroom door, they saw that the tattered scabbard was still as usual. It was hidden under the pillow like a treasure, half of it exposed. The two of them were relieved. After all, the surrounding hundreds of miles was the Mo clan's territory. Nothing would happen to Mo Qingwu. But not returning for a night, something was not right. The next day, they went out to inquire and slowly found the riverside. Finally, they confirmed that Mo Qingwu had run away from home. Mo Xingchen was furious. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.